Hey, welcome back to Métropole Grid. My name is Andre. Thanks so much for tuning in. It is a day in April 2024, and we're here for another Thursday night stream. How's everyone doing? A huge week it's been. Mind you, a new release, new set came out just last week, unless you're in Canada. Unless you're in Canada. If it's 2 hours of nice music, I would have been happy. Hey, Darshan, how's it going? You think this one's fishy, huh? Yo, Augie. Hey, stream. How's it going? The animation is incredible. Yeah, it was hard to get all that together with animating. The things moved. It was hard. Like the Logic formal complaint, it's the 2nd of April. I can't get prankied. I don't know what you're talking about. Welcome to Métropole Grid, the premier Marvel Champions station. It's a Thursday night. The problem is, I thought we'd be able to jump into the new set. As you might have known, Age of Apocalypse just dropped on Friday. That's huge. A new set with a lot of cards in it. 2 new heroes, the last of the X-Men cycle. You got your Bishop. You got your Magic. What else could you ask for? Well, that blue guy who disappears a lot. I think he's coming. But unfortunately, it's not up on JNet, so we can't play any of the new stuff, which means that when all else fails, you play the most powerful Marvel character of all time, man with bow and arrow. Which is what we're going to do today. I'm just going to catch up. Do you like the new Spider-Man decks that have been winning tournaments lately, or do you think they're just going to become the new oppressive decks? I think some of them are kind of cheesy, Eric. Until like the meta settles, it's kind of hard to tell what's good. Like the set's been out for like 5 days, not even in Canada. We still don't have it, as you probably know. So I'm not too worried about it. I'm honestly think a lot of the new designs, like Magic seems so pushed, just busted. MWL is coming. Well, we got here tonight. Tak, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. Hopefully you're doing well. Yeah. So I thought we were going to play one of the deck lists of the week. In fact, there's lots of them on this, the way they do things over here. But they're all like Magic. Because Magic is really cool. I think nobody's playing Bishop recently. And the Magic deck's like super, super flexible, which is really cool. But unfortunately, they're not up yet. So what I think we're going to do is that we're going to probably dive into just play some old Faithful with the arrow. He's been getting updates, which is pretty cool. Just like new cards still make him more interesting. I guess there's some support cards for like ranged cards specifically in the last set. But we're going to be playing S.H.I.E.L.D. In fact, I thought I had one of my favorite Hawkeye decks I've ever made. I played through multiple campaigns with it, and apparently I didn't save it. So this is probably the closest we're going to get to it. There's actually like only one new card in this because I wanted to play Directed Force because I haven't ever played Directed Force because it doesn't seem very good. But I'm putting in here. But we're just playing a S.H.I.E.L.D. deck, and S.H.I.E.L.D. decks can be kind of fun. That's fair. I want to play more Wolverine, but I'm just tired of getting blown out by the web slinger. Yeah, I think there's reasons. Like, it depends on your meta. I think you can get away with playing Wolverine a fair bit. It's like, man, it sucks. You know, people post their deck lists, you know, oh, this JNet casual undefeated Spider-Man, and it's really gonna, whatever, man. Sometimes I think it'd be better without an RNDB. You ever think about that? I think we should just dive into it. I actually don't know if we have the campaign guide up on JNet, so I need to find it real quickly. What's the first Rise of Red Skull campaign PDF Netrunner? So real talk, we're gonna go pretty far without breaking kayfabe. That's like totally true. In fact, we've got this far. But this is going to live on the channel for a while. People are going to search Marvel Champions and this is going to come up. So just for context, hi, this is a Netrunner channel. Every April Fools, we do something different. I think the testing groups are a very nasty Magneto deck. I think some people believe Magneto is coming to the game, which is, you know, I'm pretty excited for that. D, how's it going? So what we're going to do here is we're going to be playing some Marvel Champions. It's a card game that FFG still makes. It's pretty good. I honestly kind of like it. I know it's kind of maybe not vogue. Maybe in your circles, people don't talk about it. They play Arkham Horror. It's a cool one. I actually really like Marvel Champions. I kind of really got into it last year. I'm a couple hundreds of games, which has been really good. To give you the short of the long is we're going to learn how to play Marvel Champions tonight on stream, and it's going to take 5 minutes because this game is hella simple and in the best way possible. Because this game, mind you, it isn't a competitive game. It is a cooperative or solo game. I mostly played solo with my partner, and you face off against single like instances encounters, or like you can make it to do a campaign. This is the first campaign ever released. It's pretty good. It's not that deep in terms of campaigns. Like if you played Arkham Horror, no, this is not a campaign. But it still does cool things. You make decisions and your, choices have impacts, or your failures to be good at things has impacts on the following future. So we're going to learn how to play Marvel Champions. And let me tell you, I'm not a big Marvel guy. I really don't like Marvel stuff that much. I'm not like plugged in. I haven't seen the MCU. I'm just not like, I've read some comics growing up. I'm reading X-Men stuff right now. It's fun. The old stuff is pretty sexist. It's fun though. I feel like that shouldn't have explained the other part away. But the idea is that this game is actually really fun, and it's very close to some other games that I know you like. Games such as Flesh and Blood, games such as Slay the Spire. It's honestly that. It is like a kind of really cool deck building, simple deck build game, which plays a lot like Slay the Spire or Flesh and Blood, except you play against, an AI, a villain that does cool stuff, and you get to play with your favorite Arrow friend and Spider-Woman. I don't know nothing about Spider-Woman. Let me catch up on chat. But the short and the long is, if you're watching this, you'll learn how to play the game. We're going to dive right into it. We're not going to play that basic learn to play Rhino scenario. You don't need to know that. We're going to go straight in because you don't play Netrunner. I worked in a board game cafe, and learning new games is very relevant to my interests. Alice, welcome. It's super simple. Promise you, we're playing not the most complicated deck. They got a bit more interesting since then. I meant to check this out someday. Kato, it's really good. It's genuinely really good. Like, this is my guilty pleasure. Like, oh, I got an hour and a half. I can play through an entire, in about like 2 hours, if I have it in the evening, I can play through an entire scenario. I usually will put on, like, if I have a Friday night and I'm not doing anything, I'll put on like a whole scenario. I'll play through a whole scenario. I'll deck build, I'll play a whole campaign, not a scenario, campaign. And I'll just put on like Jeff's stream or Neon Static, who are streaming right now, mind you. Go watch Neon Static. They're actually playing Netrunner. But this is what we're going to do. So you ready? Standard plus gaming tonight. I'll cancel everything to play Unhinged against you. Jaina has an Unhinged set. It's actually like pretty cool. Parts of it are actually like really interesting. We're gonna get to that tomorrow, mind you. We'll have a normal Tuesday stream tomorrow. What heroes to come with the latest set? Yo, Nato, it's the last of the X-Men set. So the latest set to just come out has 2 heroes, which is Magic, who's Mystic traded and has top of deck synergy. She looks super, super fun. And then also Bishop, who has like energy manipulation, playing a lot of resource cards and soaks damage to return damage, which is like Bishop stuff. And then in the following set, we've seen Iceman, we've seen Jubilee. I'm pretty sure Nightcrawler is leaked. And the last character, we don't know who it is yet. People think it might be Magneto, which would be kind of cool. But yeah, I think that's it. If anyone's put together an Awakened Dreamer deck list, I would love to see it. I don't know what that is. Hey, Lucille. All right, tomorrow. I have both this stream and Neon Static Netrunner open right now, and I'm channeling all the energy I have in listening to both the audio channels at once. All right, so this is the campaign mode. There's going to be some campaign-only cards, but you got to read this comic. It's super important to the campaign mode. I know who most of the characters are, so that's good. I got that going for me. But Avengers come in. This is the Fury of Nick Shield. This is low resolution to you as it is to me. Director Fury, what's wrong? That's Nick. He's in our deck. Project Pegasus is under attack. I'm not sure what Project Pegasus is, besides obviously it's important. An army of Hydra soldiers have laid siege to the facility. For the uninitiated, Hydras are like fascists. Crossbones is leading the assault. We need you there now. That's Crossbones. He looks like that. Tell your men to hold the line, Fury. The Avengers are on their way. And this is the setup, which is really easy. Crossbones, campaign instructions, setup. Each player records their identity in their book, and that's it. If we do a victory, we have tech upgrades that will follow us, and we get a thing. Each player chooses one of the tech upgrades. So if we do well, we get a tech upgrade that comes with us, which is permanent. Mind you, welcome to JNet. JNet's really simple. It's beta.dragoncards.com. Dragon Cards existed during the pandemic to play Lord of the Rings, the LCG card game. It was made by C-Stan, who made it, put it together during the pandemic, and it's sick. This is the beta branch of it, where they're trying out more. They're redoing the Lord of the Rings card game, from my understanding. But there's also Earthborn Rangers. That's pretty cool. There's Marvel Champions, the card game. We'll get to that in a second. And WOTR, that's War of the Ring, the card game, which also came out, I think, last year. So we're going to do that. I'm just going to create a room. You can play with your friends. I'm going to play private, and that's all we do. This is the deck. We're going to talk about it when we get to it. It is a S.H.I.E.L.D. deck. S.H.I.E.L.D., mind you, is a subtype of cards. You see, this is Agent Coulson. This is what an ally looks like. He has the S.H.I.E.L.D. subtype. S.H.I.E.L.D. is a thing in Marvel. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I'm pretty sure it's an agency of they don't always have superpowers, but they're just like the good people behind the scenes. Think of like the CIA, but less evil, maybe. Then we're going to go here. I'm not that experienced to this JNet client. I'm going to go load. I'm going to load via URL, and I'm just going to paste my deck in. Really easy to do. Now, boom, it's there. You got the log. This is our ability. Cool thing about Marvel Champions is that every champion is a two-sided card, so you do a lot of flipping. Flipping is sick. So one side is Clint Barton, man with car, and the other side is Hawkeye. Totally not Clint Barton, man with bow and arrow and some stats on it. That's actually a really cool thing about Marvel Champions, the ability to flip your identity, and each side has an impact on what you're capable of doing and what the villain will do to you. If I'm simply in the car, the Crossbones will not shoot his guns at me, but if I am out with the bow and arrow, I will get shot at. So you have to kind of keep that in mind. This is our opening hand. We're going to do our mulligan in a second, but we're going to go to menu, load, and pre-built deck. Mind you, this has all the pre-built decks in it, so if you want to play the decks that come with the products, they're pretty great. Well, they're okay. They're not competitive, but they're fine. You can load them in here. We're going to go to campaign. We're going to rise a red skull, and then we're going to go Hydra campaign. What's Hydra campaign? Is Hydra campaign just what standard campaign is called? Andre said, "Flipple IDs, you heard it here first." Hey, Sophie. So not the CIA. Yeah, Coke, not the CIA at all. I don't know what this button does. So I'm just going to go to scenarios, and I'm just going to go ahead and load Rise of Red Skull, and we're going to go to Crossbones. Mind you, each campaign is 5 scenarios. I don't think they've broken that rule yet. And we start with Crossbones. We're playing on standard difficulty. If you've played Netrunner, you'll realize very quickly standard difficulty is relatively easy. I generally play on expert difficulty, which is not the same for Marvel Champions. For Arkham Horror. Arkham Horror, like expert, and it gets a fair bit more difficult, or hard gets more difficult. Standard is relatively straightforward, so you'll see how it works. Let me catch it on chat and we'll dive right in. But this is the interface. I can't zoom in more than this for some reason. Hopefully this is big enough, and I want to make sure you can see the cards, and we'll talk about the game. We'll teach the game. I haven't rehearsed this. I've been in the car for 6 hours today, driving back from Ontario. So the energy reflects that. You have a great time. Let Hone know if you run into issues. Oh, thanks, William. Any villain with a skeleton motif is peak. Yeah, this is Crossbones. His name is I forget his name. I knew it because I played the other game. I played Rudlow, I think. 1-1. We'll go with it. Just let me catch up on chat. Hold on. Marvel Champions stream. Yo, Frisbee, how's it going? Yeah. Marvel Champions. It's pretty good, actually. Rumlow. I think it's Rumlow, yeah. Okay, so let's go through the game. You start with a 40 card minimum deck. I don't know if there's a maximum deck size. There might be. That's not really important, but you have a 40 card deck. The coolest thing about Marvel Champions compared to Arkham Horror or to Netrunner is that you're not just in a cool ID, because in Netrunner, you're just a cool ID. In Arkham, you're a cool identity, like you have your own unique stuff, and then you have 3 cards in your deck that are uniquely you. But Marvel Champions, you kind of have to sell that idea that, Clint is not going to play out like insert She-Hulk here. They're different characters. So any character comes with 15 unique cards. So not only do you have an ID, you have 15 unique cards that are very much just you. So I have a whole bunch of arrows in my deck that have to be in my deck. You have to play with them. So you basically have 15 cards that are by definition uniquely yours, and then you generally add 25 on top of that. Deck building is relatively straightforward. We're not going to get too deep into it. In short, you pick one, I don't know what they're called, factions or spheres or aspects. They're called aspects. And there's 4.5 aspects in the game. We're playing yellow, which is the justice aspect, which is very good at thwarting. Thwarting is a thing to do to remove threat from schemes so you don't threat out. Villains will attack you in 2 ways. They'll do damage to try and hurt you. If you're defeated because you take too much damage, your health goes to 0 or lower than 0, game over. But also there's going to be schemes going on, which is what the villain is doing, and they'll be placing threat on the scheme. You generally thwart to remove the threat from the scheme. And a lot of schemes, if they get too much threat, you also lose the game. So there's generally 2 loss conditions in the game. One of them is them hitting you or shooting us with the guns and knives, as Crossbones does. And then the other is getting too much threat onto cards. So justice specifically is the one aspect that's really good at dealing with threat. The other aspects are protection, which does what you think it does. Aggression also does what you think it does. And leadership, which is with allies and helping the table out, stuff like that. You're also allowed to play as many neutral cards. Neutral is or they're called basic. Those are the white cards. Anybody can play them. But deck building is that simple. You pick one aspect, you have to play your 15 cards, and then you put 25 cards on top of it. I would say 90% of decks are also playing these resource cards. Imagine these like your sure gambles. So max 1 per deck. We have 1 energy, we have 1 genius, and 1 strength. So functionally, most decks are actually only 22 unique cards on top of your 15. This is actually one of my favorite parts of the game because deck building is relatively straightforward. It takes me like 10 minutes to deck build a new interesting idea before I play a game. And the idea that each ID comes with 15 additional cards means like your Hoshiko deck and your Lu deck are not just like 5 cards different. They're very different fundamentally how they work. I think that's a really cool way that this game succeeds. So first thing, we're going to do a mulligan. One of the cool things you'll see here on our Clint Barden card is at the bottom in corner, it says hand size 6 and hit points 9. Our hit points on JNet is up here, 9 health. That goes up and down based on us taking health. And then we also have 6 hand size. That means at the end of our turn, if we stay in Clint Barden in the alter ego side, which is what it's called, we will draw up to 6 hand size. This is actually a really interesting thing because if we flip over and we're in hero mode, our hand size shrinks to 5. So staying alter ego has a bunch of benefits to it. An additional hand size is really good, but it also, there's other problems associated with it. Very importantly, this game has the sort of cadence like, again, Flesh and Blood or Slay the Spire. So every turn, you're kind of incentivized to dump your whole hand because the last thing you do after you end your turn is you draw back up to your full hand size. Our deck is about 40 cards, so we're going to be going through our deck multiple times. That's actually really important because you're guaranteed to see every card in your deck in just about every game unless you lose very, very quickly, which is really interesting for a bunch of reasons, for deck building reasons, for, you know, the machinations that you can put together. It's like Slay the Spire. Every hand is a unique set of 5, 6, 4 cards, and you have to figure out how to beat the puzzle on this turn. Then you draw a next hand. Once your deck is empty and you're meant to draw a hand and you don't have a hand, you draw an encounter card. That's a bad thing. You shuffle your discard pile and then you keep drawing from that. So the show never ends. You just keep going through your deck over and over again, but you're constantly drawing. That means you're incentivized to dump your hand as much as possible because holding a card in your hand from turn to turn is like denying yourself a card draw as much as sometimes it is right to do that. There's a card, I can't pay for this. I want to keep it for next turn. You want to keep that as rare as possible because you are losing hand size. So these are what cards look like. There's like 4 kinds of cards in the game. I think 5 kinds of cards in the game. There might actually be 6 in this deck because there's a new kind of card that was introduced relatively recently, and we'll talk about them. Firstly, top left corner, that's the cost of a card. If I want to play Quinn Carrier is a support. You notice it has that diamond, so it's unique. Not only does uniqueness mean there can only be 1 on the table, but it also means I can only have 1 in my deck. I kind of like that. It's very different than other games, but while Quinn Carrier is unique, there's only 1 Quinn Carrier possibly in my... No, that's actually not true. That's true. There's only 1 in my deck. So that's neat. Not that big of a deal because you're drawing through your deck constantly, but that's actually really important. Agent 13, there's only 1 Agent 13 in my deck. If I do not play her, Sharon Carter is not going to be coming back until I cycle through my whole deck. Okay, so in the top left corner, we have costs. And very importantly, this game plays costs actually very similar to kind of Flesh and Blood, where if I want to play the 3 cost Quinn Carrier and it's a support, supports are on the table, not just like hardware or resources. I have to basically, let's say pitch, but I have to pay 3 resources. So you notice every card, just about every card in the bottom left corner has this little symbol. It's right next to this microphone knob right here. So this has a little kind of, looks like an atom symbol abstractly. That is a science icon. And there's 3.5 kind of icons in the game. There's science, there's I think energy, and then there's like brute might. I'm not actually sure the names of them. It doesn't really matter. It's red, blue, and yellow. These are all kinds of resources. When I play Quinn Carrier, I have to discard 3 resources from my hand. It doesn't matter what cards they're on, I just discard them. So say I want to play Quinn Carrier, I can discard Agent, Government. I just paid it. That's it. Doesn't matter what the cards are. It doesn't at all matter what the cards are. Some cards will specifically say only pay for this or only play this by paying X kind of resources, but generally the types of resources have no impact on the game unless the cards exactly say it. And this is exactly why this game ends up to be something like Flesh and Blood, because you want to dump your hand by playing as much as your hand, by pitching the rest of your hand, and then at the end of your turn, you'll draw back up. What I did there was nonsense. We're not going to do that. We haven't done our mulligan yet. We'll get to our mulligan once we learn the base of the game, but just keep that in mind. Anytime you play a card, you play the card, you either put it on the table, or if it's an event, it just does its thing and disappears, goes to your discard pile, but you always have to pay the cost. And the cost is by trashing cards from your hand that have that amount of resources. Speaking of resources, the second kind of card is a resource card. This is energy. Notably, it does nothing, but it has 2 resources on it. So it's twice as good as paying for the cost of things. So if I want to play Quinn Carrier, I can spend 2 energy resources from energy and then 1 resource by trashing the government liaison. That's 3 resources. That's what resource cards do. They just pay for things generally a bit more efficiently, but they have no other impact on text. 1 per deck and 1 in play for the entire team. But if this was multiplayer, each player could have their own copy in deck, not in play. Oh yeah, in deck, every player could show up if we're playing multiplayer. You can play this up to 4 players. I wouldn't recommend it. Physical, mental, energy, and wild. Yeah, there's a kind of resource, mind you. You see it here on Hawkeye's bow, that star. That's wild. When you pitch this and you won't, because Hawkeye's bow is really important for Hawkeye, it counts as any kind of resource. So if you're looking for, it's a wild resource. It is exactly what you think it is. So what are the kind of cards? We have supports. Those just hit the table and they help you. This card says Resource, Exhaust Quinn Carrier. Mind you, just like you think it is, it generates a wild resource. So if I had Quinn Carrier on the table and I had to pay, 2 for Government Liaison, I could exhaust this, which is a once per turn ability. You can't exhaust a card that's already exhausted. You've played games like this before. I will pitch Government Liaison to make another resource, and I have 2, so I'll play Quake. It works like that. So supports are what you think they are. They help support on the table. Allies are very interesting. I think we might actually just want to get into the game for all this to make sense. I think we actually probably shouldn't explain more than that, because you'll see what the cards do, but we just want to keep that in mind, that paying costs is from hand. You redraw at the end of your turn. It's that simple. First thing we do in the game is we mulligan. We do a full mulligan without shuffling. So I want to decide what cards I keep in my hand. Just to give you an explanation of what I'm doing, it's been a while since I played this deck. I want to keep Hawkeye's bow because it is very important, as much as I have my action ability on my Clint Barton alter ego card lets me search for Hawkeye's bow. It trades a card for a card, so I don't really need to do that. I'm just going to keep my bow in hand. I'm going to keep an energy because it's 2 resources. That's good to set up. I'm going to keep Quinn Carrier because it's a good to set up card for sure. And then I'm not going to keep Agent 13 because she's pretty expensive with this hand. I'm not going to keep the Government Liaison, I don't think. And I don't think I'm going to keep Quake. After you're done mulliganing, you don't shuffle these cards back in. You just draw back up to your hand size, and we're off to the races. Oh, we drew the quiver. That's actually really quite good. So I'm not sure the order you're meant to do this, but technically we're meant to read this. This is the main scheme. It's attack on Mount Athena. I'm not going to read the narrative. Crossbones is up to no good. It tells us how to set up the deck. The deck is this pile of cards that is very interesting, because not only does it have Crossbones cards in it, it has the standard encounter set, which is some basic cards that are basically in every game, unless you're playing on a different difficulty. They're usually still in it. And then it says which encounter sets to add into the deck. So specifically here, it says to add Hydra Patrol, Weapons Master, and Legions of Hydra. So those are small encounter sets. They're basically collections of thematic cards that make sense together, somewhere between 4 and 11 cards. And we all add them to the same deck. That's actually a really cool thing about Marvel Champions, is if you want to play Crossbones, but instead of like shuffling in Hydra Patrol and Weapons Master, we can shuffle in a bunch of time traveling dinosaurs and then like some X-Men villains. You have full control of modularity of this game to control the difficulty. It's recommending what to do. In some cases, it'll tell you you need to have this in because it interacts in a way, but you can actually make any sort of narratives, any sort of modulars you want. And that's quite cool. If this thing is too easy, why don't you take out this encounter set and put it for a meaner one that works better or more interesting? It's actually really quite nice. We have to do setup. We create the experimental weapons deck next to the main scheme deck. We've done that technically already. There's a typo on that. It says rulebook wrong. And technically it draws a card, and it draws this experimental weapon, which is going to be attached to Crossbones. It's called the Energy Shield. Once we've done the setup, we flip this over by hitting F. And this is the main scheme. It says attack on Mount Athena. Crossbones is leading an army of Hydra soldiers in a direct assault on Project Pegasus facility in the Adirondack Mountains. When revealed the top card of the experimental weapons deck. They've already gone ahead and done that in the implementation on JNet, so this card is already here. There's an Energy Shield. That's it. We'll talk about these numbers here when we get to them, but now we can start. So I'm going to shuffle the encounter deck. It already was shuffled, and we can start playing. What's the software you're playing on? The website I'll link in the description is beta.dragoncards. So exactly what you see here, but beta.dragoncards. If you just go to dragoncards.com, it's only Lord of the Rings, and it works really well. There's also a lot of like buttons and stuff here I'm not too familiar with. Like it actually goes through all the phases. Like it goes to 2.1 and 2.3. And if you use the arrow keys, you can actually like cycle through them. I'm not going to be cycling through them. These sort of phases are actually really more important if you play something like Lord of the Rings, the card game, that has like, for better or worse, like 8 different phases and very complicated structure with action windows on certain like timings. Marvel Champions has the same phase structure as Slay the Spire. Either it's your turn or it's not. It's like that easy. It's your turn and then the enemy does a thing. Then you go, then the enemy goes. So all this like 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, if you're learning the game, you could like hit up and down and go through them. But for me, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to do all the automation, not automated. I'm going to do it myself, but just keep that in mind that if you want to walk through this and like hit the buttons and go through the different areas, you can do it. I'm not going to do it. Hey everyone, I hope we're enjoying, as we always are, the Metropole Helicarrier. Hey Pat, welcome to the stream. Also Phil, how you doing? Okay, so we're going to set up. So our goal right now is, well, we should read Crossbones, mind you. Crossbones starts with 12 health per player, so 12 health. It tracked up here. He attacks for 1 attack, schemes for 1, and it says, while Crossbones has a weapon attachment, technically he does, because Energy Shield has a weapon subtype on it, Crossbones attack gains piercing. Reminder text there says piercing discards tough status cards before the target is dealt damage. We have no way to get tough status cards, I don't think, on any of our cards maybe, so that's not going to matter. So let's set up. I'm probably not going to play optimally. Because there's too much going on. So if you watch this and think he plays Hawkeye like an absolute chump, that's fine. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play Hawkeye's bow. Hawkeye's bow costs nothing, so it's just on the table. It's in my play area. It's restricted. Restricted is a term that they use on weapons. Basically means people can only have 2 weapons. That's a nice thing. You don't end up with holding 7 guns. And it says your hero gets +1 attack. Mind you, it says hero, not alter ego. Right now we're alter ego. We're not hero yet. And our arrows gain ranged. Range avoids retaliate. That's nice. They can't hit us if we're shooting them from the distance. Next up, I'm going to pitch 2 energy or 2 resources for this energy card. And I'm going to throw out the Sky Destroyer to play. Oh, actually, I can't play the Quinn Carry yet because the Quinn Carry says play only if your identity has the Avenger trait. And currently Clint Barton is man in car. So this is an Arkham. Hey, Cat, how's it going? So before we do that, one thing that's very important to know, and that's what makes this game very interesting, is once per turn, you're allowed to flip forms. So you can flip between alter ego and hero. So I'm going to do my once per turn flip. And notice I'm now an Avenger. So now I can pay 1, 2, 3, and now I can play the Quinn Carrier because I have the Avenger trait. I can exhaust the Quinn Carrier to generate a wild resource. I will do that to play the Hawkeye's Quiver. Hawkeye's Quiver is going to make us click a lot of buttons. It says, you may play arrow events attached to this card as if they were in your hand. Mind you, we're all about arrows. And as an action, mind you, on our turn, we're doing actions. I'm not going to explain the rules, context of this. It's what you think it is. Exhaust Hawkeye's Quiver. Search the top 5 cards of your deck for an arrow event and attach it face up to this card. You shuffle the deck after. So I'm going to go hit this button. You can see the drop down slightly. It's behind my head. I'm going to hit look at top 5 and I'm going to look for an arrow. The only arrow we have is a vibranium arrow, so I'm going to attach it to the thing. I'm going to shuffle this, and the vibranium arrow is here on the quiver. So Hawkeye's deck has, I think, 10 different arrows in it. They all do different things. Vibranium arrow is just the big one that hurts people. I have to exhaust the bow and then deal 6 damage to an enemy with piercing. So it eats toughness status counters. That's great. I can't fire this arrow, mind you, because it costs 2, and I only have 1 in hand. This is all I have. I only have 1. So we're not going to be able to shoot an arrow right now, but that's okay. So what are we going to do on our turn? Honestly, not that much. We're probably going to get a bit hurt. So I can't fire this because it costs 2. I only have 1 resource. So mind you, I get +1 attack. And now we're going to look at the 3 things we have. You can exhaust your hero or your alter ego to do one of the basic actions. Heroes have 3 basic actions. Alter egos have 1 basic action. Our basic actions are thwart, attack, and defend. Defend, we can only do as a result of us being attacked, so that's not a possibility right now. Thwarting is something we can do, so thwart 1 means I can exhaust to remove 1 threat from a card. There are no threats on cards right now. There's no threat on the table, so we'll come back to this in a moment, but that's the thing you can do. The other thing we can do is we can attack. So you can exhaust, choose a target on the table, and do technically 2 damage. In theory, we do 3 damage because we get +1 attack. So we're doing 3 damage, and our target is going to be Crossbones. So we're just going to do 3. That's it. Heroes don't defend. Heroes don't do anything flashy. That's it. But very importantly, this energy shield, which was randomly given to Crossbones, who's stealing experimental technology, says the villain gets retaliate 1. Retaliate 1 means that whenever you attack it, unless you have ranged, you have to take 1 damage back if the thing that you attacked survives. So actually I have to take 1 damage. It's not a good trade. We're eventually going to get rid of this thing by spending an action to discard 1 energy and 1 science resource. We can't do it now because all we have in hand is 1 science resource. We could have done it this turn, but that's it. I have 1 card left in hand. I'm exhausted. All my cards that exhausted are exhausted. I'm going to end the turn. I'm going to catch up on chat first, but all I'm going to do is hit Shift P. The thing we have to decide first is, are we going to keep the Sonic Arrow? Because before you drop to your hand size, which as a hero is only 5, you can discard any cards you still have in your hand. I'm actually going to discard the Sonic Arrow. Nah, that's actually pretty good. I kind of like the Sonic Arrow here. Could keep it. This arrow confuses. Confuses a good stat. It's just a good effect because it means we can flip down. I'm just going to keep it and I'll hit Shift. I think it's Shift P. And it draws back up to my hand size. It readies all my cards and we're on to the villain phase. Let me catch up on chat. It does do multiplayer edits, does. Yeah. With the disadvantage that you probably have to deal with some of the slight jank to the site we're not dealing with today, but the upside is you can have one particular player do that. They forgot to write shuffle on that card and had to issue an FAQ about it. Yeah. This card, there's an FAQ be like, why do you not shuffle? You do shuffle. Any search effect has a shuffle. This should have had shuffle written on it. The game used to have a no change in game state rule like Netrunner, but they changed it slightly too. If it has a target, it has to be able to affect at least 1 target. Yeah. They have some Mind you, Marvel Champions, people get heated up about the rules because the rules have actually fundamentally changed throughout the years, where they've changed how certain things work, like defense works totally different in some pretty important ways, but not the major way. So just keep that in mind. Just do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. You can look up the FAQ. You don't have to. Just do whatever you want. It's a fun game. Welcome to the villain phase. The villain phase, the first thing happens is we go to the main scheme and we add threat to the scheme. Threat are these triangles with numbers on them. I can increment and decrement it at will, but at this card here, you'll notice it has that little +1 per player. That means every beginning of the villain phase, like adding a doom to the act or agenda, I forget what it is in Arkham Horror, you add 1 threat here. So we're at 1. Now this scheme, I should really move my head. I don't know where to put my head in this thing. I'm gonna put it on the chat log. The chat log doesn't matter. This thing you notice in the top left has 3 per player, which means when this thing gets 3 or more threat on it, it will advance. So I will have to throw this card away, and then whatever the scheme behind it will now become the new active scheme. That usually is kind of a bad thing, because as the schemes progress, the villain continues to do bad things to you and to the world. So it's very unlikely that we're going to stay on this, because 3 is a very small limit, one of the smallest in all games. But eventually there should be a scheme card that says something akin to, if this advances, lose the game. I think in this one we have maybe 2 or 3 schemes before we lose the game. But yeah, just keep that in mind. At the beginning of every phase, we add 1 threat. Now, this threat is, mind you, when we could have thwarted to exhaust our character on our turn to remove 1 threat from a card. That means we could have cleared this, but this didn't exist then. So now it's up to us. Cool. Wasn't your attack ranged? Yeah, sorry, Jeffrey. The range attack is only if I actually shoot with the arrow. It doesn't make entirely sense, but I hear you. So the next thing that happens on the villain phase is the villain will activate against you. And this is contextual. Either the villain will scheme if you're an alter ego. So imagine I'm Clint at home on the couch. The villain's just going to scheme, do his thing, make sure that the world is getting worse. He's stealing weapons. That's bad. Whenever he schemes, he'll add some amount of threat to this, which again, that is a lose case of our game. So being an alter ego means you're not going to get hurt because, you know, the villain's not dealing with you. You're again at home or driving the car, but the villain is scheming, which can be a bad thing. Now, because we are in hero form, when the villain activates, the villain's going to attack us. So the villain's going to do 1 damage. This has piercing plus 1 boost card. I hit B for boost. So we don't actually know how much damage we're going to take. We draw the top card in the counter deck. We put it face down on the table. And before we reveal the card, we have to decide if we're going to block the attack. We have 8 health still, and the villain's going to do 1 plus some amount of damage, probably. We could, in theory here, exhaust our hero, and because our defense is 1, we would block the first instance of 1 damage. So if the villain only attacked us for 1, we would take no damage. However, notice that we only readied our hero at the end of our turn. So if we want to block right now, it's going to go back to our turn after the villain phase, and our Hawkeye is not going to be readied. So that means that we can't thwart. We can't do a basic attack. So there's a real cost. There's a downside to defending. Hawkeye will almost never defend because 1 is literally almost I think it is the worst you can get. I don't think 0 shows up on any champions. So we're not going to defend. If we had allies here, we could use our allies to block. We'll get to that when it comes to it. But right now, we're just going to have to take 1 plus whatever the boost card is. I hit F to flip the boost card, and boost card has art. Boost card has a title. The boost card has text on it. When revealed, we ignore all of that. And the only thing we're looking at right now are these little pips in the bottom right corner of the card. You see there's 2 pips like right above here. That means this adds 2 damage to the attack. So the attack does 1 because of Crossbones base, plus 2 from full auto, we take 3 damage. Oh, that's the villain. That would have been easy. We're down to 5. Hawkeye is really squishy. It's actually quite bad. That's it. After that, we hit X, we discard it. That was the attack. Mind you, boost cards sometimes have a star. When you draw star, it doesn't count as +1 damage, but then you read special text on the card that says when this is a boost card, do something bad to you. But generally, when you get attacked, the boost cards either have 0 boost icons all the way up to 4 boost icons in the most extreme case. So who knows what's going to happen. This is how simple the villain phase is. Firstly, you add threat to the scheme, the villain activates against you, and then you just draw an encounter card. So we hit E, we flip the encounter card. We might die. We might immediately die. This is Assault. This is a standard encounter card. Notice it has no boost icons. We'd love to have drawn this as a boost card, but it says when revealed, alter ego. We're not an alter ego. When revealed, hero. That's us. The villain attacks you. Die, says Venom. So the villain just attacks us. So same thing. It's going to be 1, draw a boost card. Who knows what? Who knows? If there's a 4 on here, which there's no 4s this early on in the game, we could just die. Clint is really squishy. Not a lot of people like Hawkeye as much as I like Hawkeye. I'm not blocking. 1 defense is nearly useless. I'm going to flip this over. Star. We talked about this. Boost. give the villain a tough status card. So we'll get to that. Tough status card. And it says, if you cannot, heal 3 damage from it instead. Sick. So we did the boost effect, and then we count how many boost icons there are. Star doesn't count as a real boost icon, so we only take 1 damage, 1 from Crossbones. We're down at 4. That could have gone so much worse for us. We discard it. Congratulations, we're done the villain phase. We're back to the hero phase. That's as simple as this game is. We do our thing. We add threat to the scheme. It activates against us, draw an encounter card. It's back to us. Super straightforward. Again, very much like Slay the Spire. We got problems to deal with now, so we're going to focus on that. But you know how to play like 90% of the game. You don't know what allies are. We're going to get to allies hopefully shortly soon. But we're in the same state we were. It's like turn 1 all over again, except we're really hurt. There are some allies with 0 basic powers in Hulk, but I don't think there's any heroes. Yeah, I don't think there's any heroes with 0s, but there are allies for sure. And there's allies that have no, like you can't, I think, as well. Hey, Lazy, yeah, we're teaching the game at a rapid pace, but this game is really good. This game is actually, like, I really like this game a fair bit. So let's look at the board state. You notice we're at 4 health. How do you regain health? Regaining health in this game is really hard. It's actually quite difficult. The only way you can regain health naturally, notice once per turn, we can flip from alter ego to hero, from hero to alter ego. When I flip, I can no longer attack, I can no longer thwart, I can no longer defend, but I can exhaust to recover. And so you see the recovery in Clint is 3. So if I flipped down to alter ego, that's usually what people say, flip down, and then I exhaust, I can heal 3. So I go up to 7. Mind you, my max hit points is 9. So it does say that there. But yeah, just keep that in mind, that that's the only way that you can heal usually is flip down to alter ego and take some time out of the fight. I'm not going to do that right away. We're probably going to do that this turn. So what do we have to worry about? Firstly, Crossbones has a tough status card. That means the next instant of damage will be entirely negated. So imagine like Divine Shield, full armor. We do have in theory here Vibranium Arrow, which if we attack with it does 6 damage with piercing, so it discards tough first. That's not bad. That actually helps us a heck of a lot. That'll put Crossbones down to 3 health, and mind you, once we defeat first stage of Crossbones, there's a second stage of Crossbones, and he's a bit tougher there. But that's not too bad at all. We also have this arrow, which we held on to because we thought it was important to do so, and it's called Sonic Arrow. Sonic Arrow does 3 damage and it confuses. Confusing is one of the like 2 status effects or 3 status effects in the game. If a villain is confused, the next time that villain would scheme, it doesn't. Which is really important because if we want to flip down, the villain is going to scheme, and with 3 on this thing, it'll advance it really quickly. So there's actually a big chance that our best line here is to confuse the villain and just flip down to alter ego, heal, and then try and rebuild next turn with a bigger hand size. Because if we end our turn on alter ego, we have 6 hand size instead of 5. That's pretty good. I think that's probably what we're going to do. Mind you, first thing first, we can always exhaust Hawkeye's quiver to search the top 5 for an arrow. So let's go do that. We have found Cable Arrow, which is an arrow that removes 3 threat. It's not an offensive arrow, but we'll take it. Or we also have Electric Arrow, mind you. Exhaust Hawkeye, stun an enemy, and deal 3 damage to it. So just like our Confuse Arrow, this is why I like Hawkeye. Hawkeye is kind of the gadgets guy. Has a bunch of different arrows that all do something bespoke for board state. It's up to you to figure out when the right one to play, which one is. I think we'll probably take Cable Arrow. We have one in hand. Let's take the Electric Arrow. We have to shuffle. We'll put that on the quiver. On the quiver. Okay, it's great. Marvel Champions is entirely PvE. Co-op or solo. I play a lot of solo. Okay, so we want to shoot an arrow, and I think we're going to do the Confuse Arrow. We don't want to exhaust. Mind you, we can exhaust to do 3 damage and take the Retaliate. I don't want to do that. So we're going to shoot the Sonic Arrow. It costs us 2. We're going to exhaust the Quinn Carrier to generate 1 wild. I don't think we are, actually. I think we're going to discard Explosive Arrow. We're going to discard Directed Force. That generates 2. Sonic Arrow, we have to exhaust Hawkeye's bow. It does 3 damage and confuses the enemy. So confuse, I believe, is 6. No, that's stun. It's 5. It's 5. And we do 3 damage. However, Crossbones is tough, so instead we just take the tough off. Now, Crossbones has Retaliate, but our arrows are ranged, so you don't take Retaliate on ranged attacks. So we're totally fine there. This goes to our discard pile. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to do this action. We're going to spend a Lightning and a Science. So I'm going to exhaust the Quinn Carrier, which generates a Wild. We're going to say the Wild is Lightning. And I'm going to discard the Surveillance Team, which is Science. And we're going to be able to discard this. So now he doesn't have Retaliate anymore. He also doesn't have a weapon. Technically, there's a bunch of cards that say, like, if Crossbones has a weapon, do something bad. Next, we're going to flip down. And then we're just going to exhaust to recover 3. Now we're going to end our turn. We're going to drop to 6. The question is whether we want to keep this. This is not a bad keep because this is going to have at least 2 on it and this clears it pretty well. But we're probably actually going to want to shoot the electric arrow to stun Crossbones because we are very squishy. And if Crossbones is stunned, that means Crossbone won't attack. And that's a nice way to get around this. Again, it's like Slay the Spire. It's really interesting. You have a lot of choices, especially in, I like Clint. So I'm going to discard this. I'm going to hit Shift P. So we drop the 6 cards. Ooh, this card's sideways. We'll talk about that in a second. We have a new fresh hand of cards, including Monica Chang, who is an ally. She might be useful. Villain phase. First thing, we add 1 threat per player to this, so it's 2. In the top left, it requires 3 to advance, so we're not there yet. And now Crossbones will activate against us. Very similarly to attacking, if you're an alter ego, instead of an attack, Crossbones schemes, and it works functionally exactly the same. It's 1, because Crossbone has 1 scheme, and then you draw a boost card, you flip the boost card over, and you add how many boost icons it has to Crossbone. Imagine this card had 2 boost icons on it. That means Crossbones would scheme for 3, and then you would put 3 threat on the main scheme. At that point, 5 is bigger than 3, so we clear all threat, and it advances. That's how it works. It's exact same workflow as attacking. Mind you, there's no way to exhaust yourself to like block the threat the way that you can block damage by defending. But very importantly in this case, the status effect Confused, which each character can only have 1 Confused largely. Instead, when Crossbones would scheme and Crossbones is confused, it just clears the confuse. That's why confusion is good. It's a nice way to flip down so you can recover, draw a bigger hand size, and not just lose the game immediately. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw an encounter card because we did the activation. We're going to flip it, and it's a Hydra Bomber. This is our first minion. Cool. Minions are pretty fun. When revealed, choose to either take 2 damage or place 1 threat on the main scheme. Notice, if we put 1 threat on the main scheme, it would hit 3 and it would advance. So I feel like right now, we're probably just going to take 2 damage. We're pretty hurt. Let's be honest. Hawkeye's getting beat up, but that's kind of what happens. Crossbones walked to the room, forgot what he was doing. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was up to something, but I don't know what it was. Now, this is a minion. During the villain phase, after Crossbones will activate either scheme or attack, minions will activate either scheme or attack based off of what side you're on. If you're alter ego, they will scheme. If you're a hero, they will attack. The difference between minions is that they don't draw a boost card. So when Hydra Bomber schemes or attacks, it'll always be for 1. So we know exactly what's going to happen. It only has 2 health. That's what the big red number is next to his thigh. So if we do 2 damage to it, it is defeated. Mind you, when we do an attack, we can choose to either attack Crossbones or Hydra Bomber. The Hydra Bomber goes down pretty quick. That's nice for us, but we just have to keep that in mind that you don't have to fight the minions, but the more minions on the table, the worse it gets for you because they all pile on. So yeah, some minions will have guard, which you have to deal with guard minions before you can attack the villain. Same for patrol, which you have to deal with them before you can thwart. But right now it's an important turn. We have a minion. We have Crossbones. We have 2 threat on this. If we don't clear at least 1 threat on this, we're guaranteed to lose this scheme and go into the next scheme. And we have 6 cards in hand. And we're pretty hurt. We have an electric arrow. It's nice. It stuns. I think we want to do an electric arrow at Crossbones. Mind you, we might be able to kill the Hydra Bomber as well. That'd be kind of cool. Or we can just like tank it a bit because it doesn't hurt that bad. If we want to exhaust now to heal, that would be okay. But I think there's a chance that we can just survive on 5 health for a while and just kind of stun lock the villain with a bunch of arrows and then chump block with allies. We'll get to allies in a second. Mind you, this is important. Notice if we want to spend the action to exhaust Hawkeye's quiver, it says hero action. This can be really easy to miss in your first couple of games of this, but you have to be a hero to do this. There are less cards, but some amount of cards that say alter ego action, either on events. Mind you, also the arrow says hero action. So you just have to make sure you're on the right form to play the card. It doesn't make sense that Clint Barton, the guy in the car, I feel like Hawkeye's the worst example for this because he's kind of just a guy in a car regardless of what he's up to. But yeah, you just can't do heroic stuff while you're an alter ego. So the question is whether we want to exhaust here to recover. I don't think we do. We're going to be playing a bit fast and loose, which could be dicey, but we'll flip it over. Okay, so now we're a hero. We can do all our cool hero stuff. We also didn't mention this. I can exhaust Hawkeye, quick draw, action, exhaust Hawkeye to ready Hawkeye's bow. So if I want to shoot 2 arrows in a turn, I can, because each arrow, mind you, forces you to exhaust Hawkeye's bow. Now I can shoot 2 arrows, but then I can't use Hawkeye because Hawkeye will be activated. So you have to decide, or sorry, exhausted. So you have to decide where to use things. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to exhaust the quiver to look at the top 5, see if we can get a nice arrow. I don't think there's an okay arrow for this board state, I think. The one that does like AoE damage. So we're looking at the top 5. We found the arrow that does AoE damage. Explosive arrow. Exhaust Hawkeye's bow, choose a player. So you could choose your friends you're playing with. Mind you, this is a multiplayer game, not PvP, PvE. Deal 3 damage to the villain and each minion engage with that player. So I can do 3 Crossbones and defeat the Hydra Bomber. This might be a turn that we shoot 2 arrows. We might want to clear the Hydra Bomber and then stun Crossbones. I think that's probably fine. Hey, silly question from a late arrival. How many resources per turn? So every card in your hand has a symbol in the bottom left corner or multiple symbols. That is resources. So if I want to discard Monica Chang, she generates 1 resource. That's it. So your resources are largely tied to your hand size, and or you might have some cards on the table that you can exhaust to generate resources. So I'm going to put that on the quiver. Like Quinn Carrier, I can exhaust it to generate a wild resource. Yeah, resources are not a token. This is not like Netrunner, where like you have a pool of stuff. This is more like Flesh and Blood, where you have to just pitch your cards, discard your cards to play other cards. Okay, so I think I'm going to use Quinn Carrier, and I'm going to play Clear the Area. Hero action, cost 1. I paid 1 by exhausting this. Remove 2 threat from a scheme. If this removes the last card on this scheme, draw a card. Nice. So I actually get this down to 0, and because I emptied it, I can draw a card. Strength. This is a card that generates 2 resources. This is sick. Would each player draw an encounter card each turn? Yep. And sometimes you can draw more than 1, but you deal all the encounter cards face down, and then one at a time you flip them in player order. When you play multiplayer, there's also a first player token that passes from turn to turn to turn, and the villain activates against also every character. So not only does every character draw an encounter card if you're multiplayer, but also the villain will activate against each character. So it's not uncommon. And mind you, this is actually a really big deal. When you play multiplayer, there's something kind of negative to be said about playing solo that you just have to keep in mind. Playing solo Marvel Champions, if you play single-handed like I am right now, like we are right now, is actually really difficult. Because if I flip down to Alter Ego and the villain is not confused, the villain will scheme. And the villain can do a lot of scheming really quickly. But if you play two-handed or you play with a friend, one of you can be in Alter Ego while one of you can be in hero mode. And so you can kind of divide what the villain does. And when we're in Alter Ego, or when we're playing multiplayer, say we're playing 2 players, this thing requires 6 to advance instead of 3. The game can get a little bit dicey on a single player because one bad scheme can advance this act really quickly, but it feels like you just have a bit more breathing room when you play multiplayer. So very commonly when I'm playing with my partner, she'll be like, I need a heal. I'm going to go down to Alter Ego and catch up on my stories. And I'll be like, that's fine. I'll like play defense for a while. I'll like attack I'll take the minions off of you. And so you have a bit more like playmaking. On solo, it can be quite hard really fast because again, sometimes flipping down is just impossible. I think they've got a bit better at making it a bit easier in the game with the design of the villains. This is, mind you, the first like product after the core set largely, and it's actually really still good. But yeah, keep that in mind. Hey, Eric, a totally regular Netrunner stream. How was the stream tonight? I was wondering if there was like a bunch of mountains and swamps somewhere. Yeah, nothing like that. Definitely threw me for a loop. I need to learn about how to deal with all the silly new actually my startup meta. All right, so we're going to exhaust Hawkeye's bow. What was our plan? Oh, and we're going to pay 2 resources and we're going to do electric arrow. We're going to unlock electric arrow. How do I detach electric arrow? Got it. So we pick a target, exhaust Hawkeye's bow, stun an enemy. So stun is the other status effect. We've already seen all of them. It's tough, stun, and confuse. Confuse, as you know, says when the villain is going to thwart, don't. Stun is the same thing. When the villain is going to attack, don't. Very, very powerful effect. The status effects in this game are incredibly strong. So we do 3 damage, 5 damage if the enemy was already stunned, so down to 6. Next, I'm going to exhaust Hawkeye himself to ready the bow, because that's Hawkeye's action. And then I'm going to exhaust Hawkeye, and I'm going to throw out... I think we don't have enough shield cards for this to make sense. I'm just going to throw out this card. Don't worry about with the text. And then we're going to play from our quiver. I'll detach it. And I'm going to play Explosive Arrow. Says exhaust Hawkeye's bow. We just did it. Choose a player, deal 3 damage to the villain and each minion engage with that player. So 3 damage defeats the Hydra Bomber +1. Some cards have overkill. It does what you think it does. And then 3 damage to Crossbones. 1, 2, 3. That goes into the bin. Now we have this whole hand. We haven't talked about this card yet because we actually haven't seen any side schemes. Mind you, cards like this can appear on the table and they're just other things that you have to take threat off. Notice how this has 3 threat on it. 99% of the time, they'll come out of the encounter deck. This is something recently added to the game, like we saw in Lord of the Rings, that you can choose to put into your deck that do good things for you, but you have to work on them. So imagine like playing a minion that you have to deal with. This is a thing that once I get 3 threat off of it, it does a good thing. It lets me search my deck for a support, which is really sick. I don't think I'm going to do that right now. Instead, I'm going to pitch 1, 2, 3 to play our first ally, Monica Chang. She's a shield agent. She has 2 health. She has 1 attack, 1 thwart. You probably are guessing how this works. And she says response. After Monica Chang enters play, search your deck, hand, and discard pile for a copy of Surveillance Team Support. Put into play. Put into play means you don't pay the cost. Place 1 snoop counter on each surveillance team. I think we only have 1 surveillance team. Yeah, it's in the bin. So we get it. I should have kept, you shouldn't shuffle archives in theory. So it's on the table. and it has 3 Snoop charges, +1, so 4 Snoop charges. This is the surveillance team. Apparently Monica Chan works there. It's a S.H.I.E.L.D. thing. And as an action, we can exhaust surveillance team to remove a Snoop counter to remove 1 threat from a scheme. It's just threat mitigation. It's just a justice card from the core set. It's not particularly good, but with Monica, you get one for free, so why not? Notably, when a card is out of tokens that says uses on it, uses 3 Snoop counters, once it is depleted, it does destroy itself. That is a rule baked into the game that doesn't appear on the card. Oh, actually it appears on this card because it has reminder text because it's from the core set. We don't really have a big reason to use surveillance team because there is no threat. I don't actually think we legally allowed to. And then we can either attack or we can thwart with Monica. I'm not going to, because I think we're going to need Monica's help to thwart. And you'll notice there's a little burst underneath Monica's 1 thwart and a burst underneath Monica's 1 attack. That's because most minions take what they call a consequential damage is the term for it. So if I wanted to exhaust Monica to do 1 damage, because she does 1 attack, I could attack Crossbones. It does 1 damage. And then the ally takes consequential damage equal to that burst underneath the number. So that means Monica Chan can only attack or thwart twice because consequential damage will defeat her. Once she's defeated, she goes into her discard pile and that comes back. Big thing with Marvel Champions, arguably a problem with Marvel Champions, is allies are really good to get to the last health point. Like you use them for their ability and their squirting and their attacking. And then when they're on the last hit point, you chump block. The villain attacks and you say, I'm going to block with Monica Chang. Even though she has 1 health, she takes like 13 damage, gets obliterated, but it's fine. There's no consequences to that. So do keep that in mind. Chump blocking with allies is a pain point for some in this game. You don't have to build your deck with ally flood. You can, it's effective in most scenarios. The designers have been better at making that not like the tier 1 strategy. I think that's our turn. I think we're not going to use Monica because we want to use Monica to thwart because Arrowman is bad at thwarting. Monica is not great at thwarting, but better than nothing. And we're going to hit Shift P to draw our 5 hand size now because we are in hero mode. Our hand size is 5. Let me catch up on chat. Seb would be proud. No, Aesops and Champions. There are, Shenchling, how's it going? There are Aesops likes cards. I think the biggest Aesop subtype, very cool in Marvel Champions, is attached to tech cards. I don't think we're actually playing any tech cards, but there's a really cool sub theme with tech cards and scavenging that's actually like worth pursuing in the game. This is some Shaper bull nonsense. The stream was quite silly. Few prison decks not necessarily achieving prison status. Oh, I think we're going to Blighttown, huh? Twitch says you're playing Netrunner. Twitch wouldn't lie to me. I thought I updated it. Ah, April Fool's, I guess. Huh. The main scheme is also tiny. You're really not meant to be able to hold out long before advances. Yeah, this scheme on 3, that's very tiny. The game is expecting you to fail it at some point, and the game continues. If it says when the scheme advances, lose the game, yeah. But in theory, we probably should let this go at some point when it tactically makes sense for us. But we're Justice, so we're pretty good at keeping it down in general. But if we're an aggression deck, we might just ignore it and say, like, go face, which I don't like that playstyle too much. Definitely threw me for a loop. I need to learn. Oh, excuse me, I read that. One major counterplay the game has for chump blocking is enemy attacks with overkill. Yes, enemy attacks have overkill. It's not that common, but the game has been better at punishing chump blocking. Okay, first thing, we add 1 threat to the scheme because there's +1 per player, so it's below 3, it's fine. And then Crossbones will activate. What's Crossbones going to do? Say it in chat. We're a hero, so Crossbones will attack. If we were an alter ego, Crossbones would scheme. But Crossbones is stunned, so instead of attacking, Crossbones loses stun. I'm pretty sure stun is 6. Cool. The way to add counters to this game, mind you, is if you hit it on the top of the card, it adds. If you hit the same button on the bottom of the card, it detracts. It's pretty good. Kind of confuses me because when the card is sideways, up and down are attached to the card, not to the cardinal directions of the screen. Next, we draw an encounter card. It's a Hydra Soldier. It has guard. We talked about this. When this minion is engaged with you, you cannot attack the villain. So if we want to fight, we have to deal with the Hydra Soldier first. If we want to, knock out Crossbones. And when defeated, deal the engaged player an encounter card. It's kind of a theme with Hydra. Hydra spawns more nonsense. Cut off 1 head, you've got other problems. That's it. Back to us. Game can be that fast. So we'll go from there. This is more tabletop simulator for champions. Yes. This is JNet for Marvel Champions. Yeah, Solomir. It's like JNet for Marvel Champions. It's not rules complete. Like it doesn't do the game for you. I still have to click on my cards and do stuff. But it's in beta right now and it's really quite good. It's really quite good. I prefer the TTS mod myself. I don't mind the TTS mod. I played more on the TTS mod, but this has only been out for a couple months. There's also another online client called the Card Table, which is very similar to this. Okay, so what do we want to do on our turn? We want to defeat the Hydra Soldier. 4 attack is an annoying number because Hawkeye only has 3 attack because it's 2+1 and Monica can finish it off. The 1 threat on the attack on Mountain Athena, I don't really care about that so much. Our hand has Agent Coulson, who's pretty good at thwarting. Notice he has a 2, better than Monica, and he has slightly more health, which is nice. We have a Vibranium Arrow, does 6 damage with overkill, but we can't attack Crossbones until we deal with the Hydra Soldier. And we have our unique ally. A lot of decks come with one unique ally. I think Mockingbird might be Clint's partner, but I don't actually know. Her stats are really good. 3 for 3 health, 2/2, 1 consequential damage is sick, and her interrupt is busted. When the villain initiates an attack against you, spend a resource of any type and return her to your hand. Prevent all damage from that attack. So as long as you can spam her over and over again, you can take no damage if the villain doesn't hit you twice in a turn. She's very, very good and single-handedly makes Hawkeye quite playable because his 9 health, which is nearly the lowest in the entire game, if not the lowest, is very helpful when Mockingbird can kind of like weave in and weave out. It's a fun playstyle. So what do we want to do here? Well, we're going to exhaust our Hawkeye's quiver. We only have 12 cards in the deck. Let's search for an arrow. There's a chance we're going to miss because I don't know how many arrows we've seen. We've entirely whiffed. I'm not going to look at any of those cards, just shuffle those up. So we whiffed there. We can use Surveillance Team here. Yeah, we will. We'll exhaust it. Use a Snoop counter. Remove 1 from this. Fantastic. So now we just want to deal with the Hydra Soldier and the hit points. I think we will. I don't think we need Coulson. I think we want Mockingbird. So I'll exhaust Quinn Carrier to generate 1 resource. I'll throw out Field Agent, Coulson, that's 3, and I'll play Mockingbird. Very importantly, you can only have 3 allies unless you have a way to have more ally slots. Ally slots are like an MU. It's not written on your card, but everyone can only have 3 allies. So we're at 2 so far. She doesn't have anything when she comes in. Notice she also pitches for wild, which is quite nice. I don't think I'm going to shoot an arrow this turn. I think I'm just going to discard Vibranium Arrow and then play Tactic Target Acquired. This is an upgrade. This game has upgrades and it has supports. They're both cards you put on the table. Functionally, they're the same. There's very small rules nuances where upgrades are an extension of your hero. So things that say when your hero does this, you've done it, but your supports are like other people doing things. Supports support you, upgrades upgrade you. It's nonsense. I honestly don't know why there's a distinction in the game. It doesn't matter. It never comes up. There are certain cards that say trash the support or trash an upgrade. Those matter. But this is not the first upgrade we have because our bow is an arrow upgrade and our quiver is an upgrade. It doesn't matter. This is a hero response. It says after a boost card is turned face up, we can discard this to cancel that card's boost ability. Not the boost icons, but the thing that says star, do something bad to you. We can cancel that. Love Dragon cards is also have it has Lord of the Rings LCG, it has Earthborn Rangers they're adding, and it has War of the Ring as well. Hero H9 shows no results on Marvel CDB. H10 shows 12. Yeah, 12 is a 12-way tie. Yeah, there's a bunch of 9 healthers. They're not great. All right, so I'm gonna exhaust Hawkeye to do 3 damage to Hydra Soldier. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna exhaust Monica Chang. To do the last damage, which defeats Hydra Soldier. This is a really important thing that sometimes is hard to grok. This says when defeated, deal the engaged player an encounter card. When you get an encounter card, you just draw it. You don't reveal it until the specific phase in the game during the villain phase where we reveal encounter cards. So that means we're going to have 2 encounter cards this phase, but you do not reveal them. You reveal them in order when the encounter card phase thing happens. So we're going to know that it's going to be coming. We just don't flip it immediately now. I'm then going to exhaust Mockingbird to do a basic attack. I'm going to do 2 damage to Ludlow. I think that's his name. And then Mockingbird takes 1 consequential damage because she has 1 starburst under the 2 attack. She has 3 health. She's alive. Monica Chang has 2 health. She's alive. That's it. I'm going to hit Shift P to wake up all my cards. I have 7 cards left on my deck. I have a 5 hand size. I finally drew an Expert Marksman, which generates resources every turn for my bows. It's like a forest or a swamp for arrows. We have 2 in the deck. This is the first one we've drawn. Villain phase. First thing, 1 is added to attack on Mount Athena. We're still below. And now Crossbones is going to attack. I'm going to block with the Brave Monica Chang. So you have to decide blockers before you reveal the encounter card. So Crossbones is activating. He's attacking because we're in hero mode. He's going to do 1 damage plus the boost icons on this card. This is a very important card we're not going to see, luckily. And so we do 1 plus 2 boost icons. So that's 3 damage. Monica Chang takes 3 damage. She has 4 damage on her of 2 health. So she's defeated. She goes to her discard pile. There are no downsides to that. We now draw an encounter card. And now we reveal our 2 encounter cards. I'm not sure the order you're meant to reveal them in. I always reveal them in the order they've hit the table, but I don't know if the rules are actually really clear on that. Brock Rumlow, thank you. Artifacts versus enchantments, except they have printed Frogmite or Arthagonian Enchantress effect yet? I don't know what any of that is, Joshua. Yeah, but maybe that's a way of thinking about it. Okay, Crossbones' armor. This is nice. This is a unique Crossbones card. Attached to Crossbones. Notice it gives him +1 scheme and +1 attack, so that's a problem. It's going to hit harder. It says forced interrupt. Mind you, all interrupts are forced. Villain interrupts will happen before your interrupts if they have the same timing. When Crossbones would take any amount of damage, place it here instead. If there are 5 or more damage here, discard Crossbones' armor. So we have to blow through his armor because he basically healed 5 and is getting a double his scheme and double his attack. So this is cool. Flip. Hydra Flame Soldier. Forced response, 1 attack, 1 scheme, 4 health. After Hydra Flame Soldier makes an undefended attack against you, discard a support you control. So if we're not defending, which mind you, we haven't defended because, well, we just defended with an ally, but Hawkeye doesn't like to defend because his defend is bad. The Flame Soldier will flame something up. So we have to worry about that. We don't have to kill it because it doesn't have guard, but now technically Crossbones has 6 health and technically more because the way they divide damage, you'll see how it comes out, but we have to deal with the Hydra Flame Soldier for sure. So it's back to us. What do we do? What do we do? Let's go see if we can find an arrow. That's usually what you do first. No arrows. I think all our arrows are out. So if you'd been able to do 1 more damage to Crossbones before you got his armor, you would have won? No. So villains come in 2 stages. This was meant to be the big reveal, but after we defeat Crossbones stage 1, Crossbones shows up on stage 2. On stage 2, he has more health, he has bigger numbers, and he has generally more interesting text. When you play on standard difficulty, you start in Crossbones 1 and you have to defeat Crossbones 1 and Crossbones 2. Once you defeat that, you win. Some scenarios will have different win conditions. Some of them get pretty elaborate and interesting, but the straight up usual is just fight stage 1 and stage 2. If you play on expert, which I generally play expert when I play on my own, with my partner too, she likes the challenge, you start on Crossbones 2, and once you defeat Crossbones 2, you go to Crossbones 3. Crossbones 3, even more stats, even more health, even meaner effect. So we have to expect that once Crossbones is defeated, he actually becomes stronger, and there's like this kind of tempo jump for the villain. So we weren't 1 health away, we're probably around 17 health away. This game is generally a lot faster than this because we're explaining everything, but just keep that in mind. 1 health, and then there's actually a big jump that bad things happen to you. Yeah, so we'll see. Put him in a body bag. Who's the villain? Whose villain is Crossbones? The guy seems so corny. I like Bones. I'm scared and dressed up like the good Karate Kid. Hey, Zajay. Yeah, Crossbones is usually Captain America villain. He's apparently the first guy showing up in this scenario, which is quite fine. He's actually a really fun villain on average to play. He's like straightforward. He's like a pretty reasonable learn to play, but he plays with attachments, and attachments are really quite fun. All right, so we want to deal with the Flame Soldier. What do we have in our hand? We have this card, it costs nothing. It says after a side scheme is defeated, draw a card. We have no side scheme so far, but you can just put that on the table to thin your deck. This thing gives us a resource a turn for an arrow. That's pretty good. We probably want to play it. We have the Vibranium Arrow that does 6 damage, so we can one-shot the Flame Soldier. And we have the Sonic Arrow, which does 3 damage and confuse, which actually might be okay because we could probably like jump down here and do a bit of healing and a bit more card drawing. Are there equivalent to prison decks? Cold Love, how's it going? Well, not a lot of the new HB cards made it to Marvel Champions. Generally, when it comes to Marvel Champions, it's funny. There's like 2 playstyles. You can either rush, go as fast as you can, defeat the villain, and some scenarios are really hard to rush. They're built to be anti-rush, and that works. You can go full aggro, Hulk smash. Hulk is terrible in this game, mind you. And you can also play like build, and then you can play late game control. There are late game control decks that will just stun lock the villain or confuse lock the villain. Some villains are a bit more robust against that, but some of the earlier villains, like you could stun Crossbones every turn if you played Captain America. It's miserable. I've played Captain America with 15 of Captain America's cards and then 25 blank cards, literally cards with no text on them, and you can still just crush through villains if you play on standard. So keep that in mind. I generally, as a playstyle, I'm somewhere between build. Like I'm not the full build. I'll like build plus tempo. So I'm not just trying to play a Euro board game where I put all my cards down. I'm also trying to like win. So fortunately for multiplayer, an enemy can't be stun confused. Yeah, with multiplayer, you can't like stun lock because the stun comes off on the first attack and then just hits the 3 other players or whatever. All right, I'm not going to think too much about this. I'm going to exhaust Quinn Carry to generate a wild resource to play the Expert Marksman. I'm going to put it here. I'm going to put all my arrow stuff together. I'm now going to exhaust this to generate 1 wild for an arrow. I'm going to exhaust my bow. I don't actually like this. Do we play this turn? We have another one coming up. I don't think we need to. Because I really want to play the Government Liaison because we have a lot of expensive shield cards. And very specifically, this allows you to play a shield card from your hand, reducing its resource cost by 1. And we want to play Mockingbird like every turn from now on because, well, every turn that she's defeated, she kind of like jumps back to her hand defeated. So Government Liaison is really good for that. So I kind of want to play the Government Liaison. So I think we might hold the Expert Marksman or just throw it out. We'll see how things look. But I'm going to throw a 1, 2, and I'll play Government Liaison, which generates for shield cards. Mind you, this is a shield deck. Well, we're getting there, I promise you. That's fine. Then if we exhaust Quinn Carry to generate 1 to play the Expert Marksman, we can exhaust the Expert Marksman to pitch the Sonic Arrow to play Vibranium. I don't think I love that. I think we want to confuse so we can flip down with the Sonic Arrow. So I think we're just going to exhaust Quinn Carrier. We're going to discard the Expert Marksman. We have another one we're going to draw next turn. There's 1 in 7 cards. And we'll play the Sonic Arrow. So we exhaust our bow. And it says confuse an enemy. So we'll confuse Ludlow. So 5. And we do 3 damage. The damage goes on this card, which is annoying. And it goes to the discard pile. I think we probably want to defeat the Flame Soldier. So Hawkeye will attack, that does 3 damage. Mockingbird will attack, that does 2 damage, defeats it. And Mockingbird takes 1 consequential damage, so she's on 2 of 3, which is perfectly fine. And then I think here we'll exhaust Surveillance Team, remove a charge to remove the 1 from here. We don't really need to do it, but why not? And then I'm going to flip down to Alter Ego. Then I'm going to end my turn here. So we draw 6 cards, and it's back to the villain. The 1 that gets added to the main scheme. Crossbones would scheme for 1+1 plus a boost card, but he's confused, so he gets unconfused. And then we draw an encounter card. It's a combat knife. It has Crossbones face on it, but this is not a Crossbones card. This is a Weapons Master card from the Weapons Master set. Attached to the villain, villain gains piercing. I think Crossbones already has piercing. He gets +1 attack. So he's now attacking for 3, which is a lot. And we can, as a hero, spend a might and a science resource, not sure what it's called, to discard this. You actually do want to keep the weapons off of Crossbones because there's a bunch of cards in the counter deck that say like Crossbones attacks. If he has a weapon, do this on top of it, which is pretty bad. Oh, mental. Thank you. Mental, physical, and energy, I think are what they're called. Doesn't really matter. If you can cheat mana, always cheat mana. I thought so, Joshua. Apparently the last card in our deck is our last mana cheat card. We did not draw it, unfortunately. Okay. So it is back to us. Crossbones need to deal with some of this stuff. We're pretty safe on our other side because Mockingbird can block the first attack. We are going to empty our deck on the next draw, which means we get a bonus encounter card that will come up in a second. But I think we want to set up Nick Fury, mind you, a very, very powerful basic card. One of the most powerful cards in the game. Costs 4 resources. Has good stats, but only exists for 1 entire turn. So generally he shows up, does something good, and then leaves. And by leaves, he leaves at the end of the round. So you get a chump block with him and he disappears. When you play Nick Fury, you can do 1 of 3 things. You can remove 2 threat from a scheme. You can draw 3 cards or deal 4 damage to an enemy. What do you think is the best option? What do you think people do the most often when they play Nick Fury? I think this turn we also want to remove the combat knife, and if we do 2 damage, we take the armor off, which is totally doable. So I don't think we're going to do anything in Alter Ego, so we're going to flip up. Let's search for an arrow. I'm pretty sure we know exactly what our whole deck is. Yeah, it's our last arrow cheating resource card. That's fine. We'll shuffle that deck. So I'm going to play Nick Fury. I'm going to exhaust Government Liaison, play a shield card from your hand, reducing its resource cost by 1. So 1 minus 2, 3, and I'll throw it, I think the Homeland Intervention, we don't need this. And so we played Nick Fury. So quiz time over. What most people do is they draw 3 cards. They almost always draw 3 cards with Nick Fury. And that is because it basically makes them 1 cost. And this ability on a 1 cost is absurd. Sometimes you'll do 4 damage or 2 threat removal if it really matters or if it wins you the game. But 99% of the time you draw 3 cards because it makes Nick Fury functionally 1 cost the way the economy of the game works. There's something really cool this game does too. As soon as a deck is empty, you have to shuffle. That's it. It's not when you draw a card. As soon as a deck is empty, you have to shuffle. Same for the encounter deck, same for our deck. So we drew 1 card, we draw a 2nd card, we draw a 3rd card. You also notice there's an encounter card here. As soon as your deck is empty and you have to shuffle your deck, you draw an encounter card. And like we said before, that encounter card will be flipped up during the phase, part of the villain phase where we reveal encounter cards. So it'll be there now, but we don't actually do it until the villain phase. But yeah, draw 3 is what happens 99% of the time. Because again, functionally for us, it costs nothing because we cheated it out with Government Liaison. Not Nick Fury's moshing is what I'm hearing. Yeah, he's basically moshing. It's very, very, very good. When cards equal resources, yeah, it seems sensible, yeah. Card draw is almost always correct, especially when your card's automatic. Exactly, at Changeling, yeah. Hey, Gel Shot, steal encounter deck for deck shuffle? Yeah, totally. It has it for us, which is really good. But as soon as your deck shuffles, I really like that rule. Gandalf reprint? Yeah, Kyle, exactly. Nick Fury is even stronger than Gandalf, if you ask me, from Lord of the Rings. Okay, so we now have a hand. We definitely want to play our arrow mana cheating arrow. We probably want to play another mana cheating helicarrier. This deck has a lot of mana cheating cards, more than most decks do. And that's largely because a lot of these are like shield tribal. And we have a bunch of shield payoff cards, I think. Oh my god, we didn't even play the best shield payoff card, I don't think. So we'll keep that in. I mean, Gandalf only had 1 life modal, 1 life model decoy. Wait, I don't know what that means. So let's do some stuff. What are we going to do with Nick Fury? Let's attack for Nick Fury. So Nick Fury is going to attack for 2, takes 1 consequential. And with the 2 damage goes on to Crossbones armor. And when Crossbones armor has 5 or more, discard it. Fantastic. We now want to get rid of 1 mental and 1 physical to get rid of this. It's a hero action. So let's get rid of... Mental will be clear the area. And for physical, I think we have to tap the Quinn Carrier to generate a wild. The wild will be a fight, physical. Notice some cards will notably say spend a printed icon. So printed means you can't use wild for it, but anytime you spend a wild, you get to designate what it is. So we're going to say our wild is a physical, so we'll get rid of that. So Crossbones is back down to a 1/1. Did they add sneak attack to this game? Yeah, they did in leadership, but it's way worse. It's like so much worse than quick attack in what's it called? The X-Men quick attack is kind of cool. So next up, probably don't need Helicarrier. That seems a bit greedy. We can easily advance Crossbones. I think we will. I'm not sure what happens. It's been a while since I played Crossbones. F it. We'll find out together. Hawkeye's going to attack. Hawkeye does 3 damage. The villain is now defeated. Stage 1. So we go to stage 2. Stage 2, 14 health. 2 scheme, 2 attack. So it does get harder. It's nice. It gets harder by the point in the game where it's not going to destroy you. Mind you, if you play expert, you start on this side. When Crossbones has a weapon attachment, his attack gains piercing. That's not different text. And it says when revealed, which we just revealed him, search the encounter deck and discard pile for Crossbones, machine gun, and attach it to Crossbones. Okay, let's go find a machine gun. Machine gun is scary. It does hurt you. All right, Crossbow machine guns uses 2 per player ammo counters, so that'll be 2. Gives them +0 attack, but when Crossbones attacks you forced, remove an ammo counter from this card and discard the top card of the encounter deck. Take indirect damage equal to the number of boost icons on the discarded card. That means we're going to just get gunned down 2 shots of the machine gun. Sometimes there'll be no damage if there's no boost icon. Sometimes there'll be up to 3, like this card itself has 3 on it. Indirect damage is just damage you can choose to assign across your characters as you see fit, allies, or your face. However, you cannot assign more indirect damage to any single card more than it has health. So we could assign 1 to Nick Fury, 2 to our face, for instance, or all 2 to Nick Fury, but then Nick Fury would immediately die. Life model decoys are a Marvel thing, basically robot clones similar to Doombots. Oh, cool. Unlike Gandalf, who never normally gets to ready before he leaves, yes, Nick Fury will be able to ready once, which is very important. All right, well, we have no way to get rid of the Crossfire machine gun. Crossbones is machine gun besides weathering that storm, so that sucks. I'm going to exhaust the surveillance team, spend a charge to bring this down by 1. We're being very cautious. We could definitely have let this go on by now, but it doesn't really help us that much. I am going to... I think we're going to Electric Arrow, because what else we're going to do? I'm going to throw out Helicarrier. I don't think we need another mana cheat to play the Marksman. I'm going to exhaust the Marksman, which generates 1. So we can either shoot the Electric Arrow or the Vibranium Arrow, but that's going to leave us with a weird amount of cards in hand that we can't play. I think that's fine. I think stun is really, really good. Oh, no, we don't want to stun this turn because Nick Fury is going to block the attack. So we actually don't want to stun here. So I think we probably should just get Quake down and not use this, unfortunately. This game is cool. There's actually a lot of fair bit choices here. So our options are like, we could shoot 6 arrows straight to Crossbones' head. That's good because 6 is like nearly half his health. And I think we're basically 1 to 2 turns. We could actually kill him next turn, potentially. I don't really want to stun because Nick Fury will be around until the end of the villain phase. So he can just block the attack, no problem. And then if we use the stun here, we waste value on Nick Fury. So we don't really need to do that. So I think, yeah, I think we'll just do 1, 2. We'll just play Quake. We'll keep the nah, F it. F it. We'll keep the Electric Arrow. We'll pitch 1, 2. Well, hold on. Recalculating. Yeah, let's just send it to the dome. So we'll shoot Vibranium Arrow, detach. So we exhaust, we paid 1 with Expert Marksman. We're going to throw out Quake and Vibranium Arrow, 6 damage. It pierces, so he's down to 8. Yep. And then I'm just going to play the Field Agent. Field Agent comes with 3 backup counters on it. And we can exhaust Shield Agent. When a Shield Agent would take any amount of consequential damage, prevent 1 of that damage. So it allows us to get more life out of any of our allies, which is not bad. It's not the most common card. It's good in Shield decks though, for sure. And that's it. Shift P, ready's up. We draw a new card of 5 hand. 1 threat goes on attack of Mount Athena and Crossbones will attack. So firstly, when Crossbones attacks you, this happens right now. We remove 1 ammo counter. We remove 1 ammo counter and we discard the top card of the deck. This has no icons on it, no boost icons. Notice that there's no star things, or not stars, like the little triangle 3-way thing. So we take no damage from this. We just dodge the shot, which is pretty great. And now Crossbones is going to attack for 2 and a boost card. I will exhaust Nick Fury to block, mind you. If the ally is not exhausted, can't block. So Crossbones is going to do 2, 3 damage. 3 damage onto Nick Fury. Brings Nick Fury to 4 health out of 3. Nick Fury's dead. Next part of the stage, we draw an encounter card. We flip our 2 encounter cards sequentially. First card, Hydra Soldier, guard. We have to defeat this before we can attack. Crossbones, when defeated, deal the engaged player an encounter card. Okay. Second card, Hydra Jet Troopers. It has Quick Strike. Quick Strike means that this thing will just attack us immediately if we're in hero mode. So it is now attacking us for 2. This is the first minion attack we've seen so far. Mind you, minions do not draw boost cards, so we know it's just going to be 2. That's it. The question is whether we want to block or just take 2 to the face. Hey, Andre, I'll be visiting your lovely city this weekend. Yo, Rohit, enjoy Montreal. It's quite a place. It's the weather's getting nice this weekend. I think you're going to in for a treat. Oh, are you here on Sunday? There's an event on Sunday. I don't know if you can play Netrunner. We have a CO on Sunday. I think I'm just going to take 2 to the face. We're on 3 health. It's really unfortunate we drew a guard minion because we might have been just able to send all the damage into Crossbones. So if we can defeat Hydra Soldier and we can do 8 damage, I think we have lethal this turn. I'm pretty sure we do. So what do? We will need to do 4 to this and then 8 to there. 4 is a really ugly breakpoint because we do 3. Mockingbird does 2. None of our arrows do 4. They all do like more than that. Let's start by exhausting this to search the top 5. I think if we find the AoE arrow, that actually is like pretty helpful. So we're looking for explosive arrow. We found cable arrow and vibranium arrow. We might as well store one of these on our quiver, but not the arrow we wanted. Okay, so this shouldn't be that hard to figure out. I don't actually know if we have lethal. Wait, we have 3, 4, 5. No, we probably don't have lethal. I think we just clear the board. Explosive arrow would have been really sick there. That's a bummer. Because this thing having guard sucks. If this didn't have guard, we would just shoot 2 arrows. The problem is if we shoot the second arrow, we can't Hawkeye. So is our arrow better than 3 damage? No, it's not. We could clear the area and spend a card to draw a card and have like I think it's 2 in 19 chance to draw a explosive arrow. Because there's 2 explosive arrows in our deck. So we could Quinn Carrier, play clear the area, draw a card. We don't need to clear the threat of this if we're winning, but it allows us to cycle a card at the cost of 1 resource. And if we have explosive arrow, it deals with everything really, really well. It's 1 in 19. I'm going to do it. It's not the right play. I'm going to discard this actually, and I'll play clear the area. Remove 2 threat from a scheme. If you remove the last threat, draw a card. That would have been sick though, right? Okay, so do we need to keep Mockingbird around to do our blocking work? Oh, all right. I'm going to exhaust Hawkeye to do 3 damage, defeating the Hydra Jet Trooper. I think we're just going to shoot an arrow at this and have a pretty bad turn. Exhaust Quinn Carrier. I just destroyed our Quinn Carrier. I'll exhaust Quinn Carrier. I'll exhaust Expert Marksman, so that's 2 resources for an arrow. Okay, whatever. We'll play the Vibranium arrow. It does 6 damage. It doesn't have overkill. It has piercing, so that just shoots the Hydra Soldier. When the Hydra Soldier is defeated, we draw an encounter card. Okay. This should be exhausted. I'll be there Sunday. I found the vendor. Oh, hell yeah. Yo, it's at, I think it's at L'Abyss, which is not a bad place, especially if we're upstairs. Yo, drop by if you can. That'd be sick. Okay, so that's that. We're going to keep her out for a blocker. So I think we're just going to dump our resources into another copy of Monica Chang. So Cable Arrow, we don't really need. So we can use Government Liaison because Monica's shield. So she only costs 2. So we'll play for 1, 2. And then we'll discard Sonic because I don't think we need Confuse. And we'll get rid of Cable Arrow. We'll keep Electric Arrow because it does 3 damage and stun is fine. She says when she comes into play, search your deckhand and discard pile for a copy of Surveillance Team. I think this is the only copy of Surveillance Team in the whole deck. So yeah. So what we could have done, we can't use it because there's no target for it. But if we emptied it first, we could have reinstalled it. But that's fine. Put into play. Place 1 Snoop counter on each Surveillance Team you control. So at least she puts 1 Snoop counter on it. It's whatever. Oh, we actually could have used Mockingbird. Hold on. So we can attack with Mockingbird for 2 damage. Maybe I messed this up. And it says when a shield ally would take any amount of consequential damage. So Mockingbird was about to take her third consequential damage, which would have defeated her. I can exhaust this and remove a backup counter to prevent that. So she actually survives. There's a chance we might have missed lethal. And then I'll attack for 1 because we're like in spitting distance and she will take 1 damage. I think that's all we have. Let's draw back up. We put 1 on attack amount Athena. Crossbones is now attacking for 1/2. First thing, we remove the charge from Crossbones machine gun and we reveal the top card of the deck. And we have to take 3 consequential damage because this thing has 3 icons on it. Mind you, scheme cards show up sideways, but those are the 3 icons next to that fist. So now we have to put 3 indirect damage. Oh shit, this is quite bad. The Abyss does sound like a friendly place. It's nice. So like the basement in the Abyss is like a place where people play miniatures gaming, and it's like, you know, a gaming basement. But upstairs is like a restaurant. Like it's a board game cafe. It's a fair bit nicer. I don't think it's lethal. Best you can do is 7 with Vibranium plus the ally after attacking with 2 characters to clear guards. Yeah, I think the field agent, it doesn't change how much damage we can do. It's just that I didn't want her to die because I need the chump block, I think, here. But now we have to do 3 indirect damage. This actually, we could die here. We could die. So I'm going to take 2 to the head, and then I'd put the last one on Monica, and she's defeated. So now Crossbones is attacking for 2 and a boost card. It says when the villain initiates an attack against you, I think the timing on that is after this, because this is a villain forced interrupt. Hero interrupts happen after. When the villain initiates attack, spend 1 resource of any type. So I'll spend this. It says return Mockingbird to your hand, prevent all damage. So it's attacking for 2 damage. We draw 2 encounter cards. We're probably dead. I'll be honest, we're probably dead. We win way too hard. It might have been make sense to confuse them and flip down, because if any of these cards do 1 damage, let alone if any of these are like this assault card, which I think we've seen 2 of them so far. We haven't shuffled the deck, so there might not be another one. The villain just attacks us, and if he does more, well, we're 100% dead if that happens. So good luck. Attach to the villain. When the attached villain attacks, attack gains ranged and +1 attack. So ranged means it dodges retaliate. That's fine. Guard. Okay, we survive. We survive. We're on 1 health. We're actually very close to dying. Now the question is, can we do 9 damage? 4 is such an annoying breakpoint for our deck. Really, really annoying. I think we need another explosive arrow. I think explosive arrows are way out here. So let's exhaust Hawkeye's quiver to search the top 5. Explosive arrows on top. Love it. Oh, actually, direct force could have helped us. Not really. Not really. So that's on the quiver. I think we just start with this for sure. So we'll play explosive arrow. So we'll use the 1 wild from expert marksman. We'll use 1 from Hawkeye's. We have to exhaust Hawkeye's bow. Choose a player, deal 3 damage to the villain, and each minion engage that player. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I think I can do this, right? So this is guard. Guard says the minions engage, you cannot attack the villain. This is not an attack. This is really weird. Generally attacks will have attack in quotes, right? Like this is hero action attack. And specifically because this is a weird AoE card, it actually beats guard. It's a really strange interaction, but anytime they have a damage card that doesn't have attack in quotes, you actually get away with it. Yeah, it's not an attack, it's an AoE, which is quite cool. But normally we'd have to defeat this first. I think we have it. So then we're going to exhaust Government Liaison to play a shield card -1. I'll throw out energy for 2 resources to play Mockingbird. I'll exhaust Mockingbird, taking 1 consequential damage. That'll defeat Hydra Soldier, draws an encounter card. And then I'll exhaust Hawkeye, does 3 damage, and that defeats Crossbones 2. Not even close. We're at 1, literally at 1 health. That kind of could have gone really, really quite bad for us. Yeah, I think we might need, like, we probably should give ourselves, there's a neutral card that gives you +3 hit points or even +2 recovery, and that probably is gonna be good. Crossbones does hit pretty hard. That's it. That's what Marvel Champions looks like. We have to go back to the PDF and we have to read. I think we did some good stuff. So victory. Each player chooses one of the tech upgrades from the Hydra campaign set and adds it to their deck. So there's 4 of these. We can choose one. It'll be a setup card, so it starts in play, and it gives us a once per turn thing that we can use at some point in the game. How do we find these? What are they? Adrenaline stims, tactical scanner, energy teleporter, laser cannon. So bit reckless, even without confused, you could have flipped down last round, tank to scheme flip. Yeah, you're right. We could have flipped down and just schemed out because it wouldn't have mattered. It actually would have mattered a bit because I'm pretty sure. Okay, so this is what would happen, just so you see what happens. Say that we flip down and say that he schemed out. So he would do 2 plus a boost, whatever. So he would have put 3 on here. So we do 1, 2, 3, and it loses. So then we go to the second stage. It says inside the Project Pegasus facility, S.H.I.E.L.D. agents fight desperately to prevent Hydra from obtaining the reality stored within. When revealed, reveal the top weapon of the experimental deck. And then this thing has 6 scheme. Once this advances, we go to the third scheme and it gets harder and harder. Every time we reveal a scheme, it produces the next card in the experimental weapons deck. And that actually matters for campaign mode because as you read here, all of the experimental attachments that entered the game will follow us for the rest of the campaign. Because now going on to Absorbing Man, who apparently is a Marvel character, this scenario is, mind you, one of the least interesting scenarios of all time in all of Marvel Champions. It's unfortunate. It's not bad. It's just like doesn't do anything particularly interesting. Those experimental attachments will follow us. So there actually was a downside. The fact that we were like squeaky clean and keeping this at never advancing means that for the rest of the campaign, arguably the encounter deck is less experimental tech heavy, and the experimental tech cards are pretty annoying. But that being said, sometimes they're not as bad as drawing another encounter card that just says the villain attacks you, which, you know, would have killed us there. Yeah. Remember when you saw Hydra campaign? That's that. The guide says from the Hydra campaign set. Oh, you think that's what that was? Oh, maybe it is. Yeah, maybe it is. That makes sense. So let's add one of these to our deck. We're going to do one more. I'll add it because it's fun. So one of them searches for an ally. One of them deals 5 damage to the villain of each enemy engaged with you. One discards... What's Tactical Scanner do? Does this work? Tactical Scanner. Discard this card and remove it from the campaign. Draw 5 cards. We're going to add Tactical Scanner to our deck, I think. So we now have Tactical Scanner. So we add this to our deck. That's our reward in the campaign. Mind you, this is nothing on like the campaign structure of Arkham games. You don't upgrade your deck. You can change your deck throughout scenarios, between scenarios. You can entirely change like what aspect you're playing. You can do whatever you want. But there's certain things that will be added to your deck as a, you know, going on. Also, if you're playing on expert, your health tracks over, which actually can be important. And there's ways to heal, but they come with downsides. You actually have to do something bad to your deck. All right, narrative goes on. Give up Crossbones, game over. Ludlow gets punched. You fools, I never wanted to tech. I just needed to give Madame Hydra time to make off with the stone. And Madame Hydra escapes on her motorcycle, and now I'm here to cover her escape. This is Absorbing Man, who's some sort of prison escapee who basically, whatever he touches, he kind of gains that power. Scenario 2. Rules clarifications, very simple. The website will do the setup for us and setup. Each player searches their deck for all cards with a setup keyword and puts them into play. So that's our tactical scanner. Shuffle each experimental attachment recorded in the campaign log into the encounter deck. So we have to add that card. I just want to make sure what experimental did we add? It was the force field generator, right? Energy shield. Okay, so we have to remember to add that. And that's it. If we're playing expert campaign, something else happens. In the campaign, VP turns in cold hard cash. They spend a shop. The Guardians of the Galaxy campaign is the closest MC comes to having Arkham's XP system. Yes. Yeah, in Guardians of the Galaxy, in that campaign, you get this credits, and then you spend the credits on upgrading your cards from the market. The cards that you add to your deck are really, really, really good, especially if you hold out. Guardians of the Galaxy campaign box is like one of the hardest by a mile. It's a very, very, very difficult. I think people complained that this box might have been a bit too easy, and we're playing on standard, so it is relatively easy, especially if you build like the best decks. Again, playing on expert is generally how a lot of experienced players play consistently, which is not the case for Marvel Champions, I don't think, or sorry, from Arkham Horror. But yeah, that box is way harder than anything. It's a very, very difficult box. Okay, so we go close room, victory, I think. I will do, where do we go? Up here, Marvel Champions. We'll just do the second scenario and then we'll call it a night, I think. Mind you, we'll be back tomorrow for a regular Tuesday stream. Create room, private. Menu, load, pre-built deck. I think I have this copy pasted in. I do, but I'm in the wrong menu. Load from URL. Okay, menu, load. We're do pre-built deck. We'll do, we're just gonna go scenarios. Rise of Red Skull, Absorbing Man. Okay. And if I'm not mistaken, there should be a button here to load individual cards. Spawn cards from the card pool. So we want to get Energy Shield. Where are you going to go with that? Where did you put it? Oh, nice. So that's going to be in the deck. We're going to have to shuffle that in. Technically, this happens after setup, so this is fine. And then we have to load, what was the other one we wanted? Tactical scanner. Menu load, spawn card. The card pool, tactical. Hi friends. Hey Marvel's Andre. Yo, Cinderin, how's it going? All right, we have tactical scanner. So this one we start and play because that's setup. Discard this card and remove it from the campaign log, draw 5 cards. So we can do this once in the campaign. We're probably not going to do an Absorbing Man because Absorbing Man, again, is unfortunately a bit boring and not that hard. So hopefully we don't have to use this. And that's it. We got to do our mulligan after setup. So contents, Absorbing Man, 1 modular counter set. They recommend Hydra Patrol. Just not a lot going on in this deck, for better or for worse. You can add as many encounter card sets as you want, but they don't recommend you dilute the deck more than what they do. Setup, discard cards from the counter deck until environment is discarded. So this is an environment card. It says environment in the top left. It has no additional rules text. That's fine. Put that card into play, shuffle the counter discard pile into the counter deck. Why did it not do that? The implementation is wrong. I don't want to do this card by card. That would be ludicrous, right? Move to counter deck. That's shuffle in. That's like, okay. We flip this over. You'll notice it has 12 to advance. So we were on 3 for a long time. We were stuck there. That bottom box number is 2 per player. So it starts, as you see, with 2 threat on it. And then every round it'll be adding 1 per player. So 1 in our case. That star reminds you that there's additional text. It says, after resolving step 1 of the villain phase, which is basically after you put the once per turn threat on this thing, place a delay counter here. Marvel Champions uses a lot of names like delay counter, poison, ammo. They don't mean anything. They don't come in the box. It just means like power counter, hosted counter, virus counter. It's just flavorful. There's nothing in the game that interacts specifically with delay counters. Force interrupt. When an environment enters play, discard each other environment card in play. So there can only be 1 environment. And it says if this stage is completed, the players lose the game. So this is what most last main schemes look like. If this hits 12, we lose the game. So we have to watch out that threading out is a way that you can lose the game. So this environment, notice it has Surge on it. So if we draw or reveal it, we draw another card. It's exactly the same as Arkham Horror. It just means draw this, do it, then draw another card. And Force Response, we're in the woods. So Absorbing Man will be made of wood. After Absorbing Man makes an undefended attack against you, so if we or none of our allies block, take 1 indirect damage or 2 indirect damage if there's 5 or more delay counters on the main scheme. Mind you, Absorbing Man is currently trying to delay us while Madame Hydra gets away. Absorbing Man has 14 health, not too big, and it gains the trait of each environment in play. So technically he is Brute and Wood. Wood is the trait. Attacks for schemes for 1, attacks for 2. No additional star effects, so just straight up 2 plus whatever's on the top of the deck. And we're off. We just have to defeat Absorbing Man again, stage 1, stage 2, probably around 30 health altogether. So our opening hand, we have Mockingbird. Mockingbird's pretty good. We have our Marksman, that's good to get early. Government Sky Destroyer is a really cool shield card, but we don't want to keep that in our opening hand. We don't need Field Agent because it's a bit of a card that once you're set up, it's good. I think keeping Mockingbird actually might be a bit expensive. Like we might want to just early game get down like a stun arrow and start from there, or a confuse arrow. But I don't know if we can afford to play 3 from Mockingbird while also playing our Marksman. And we need to discard a card to find our bow. Or yeah, because we can't really shoot arrows without the bow. So I think we're just gonna get rid of everything besides the Expert Marksman. So we'll refill our hand to 6. It's pretty good. And we're off. So 2 in a card, it's going to be an attack. We could stay down here in Alter Ego for a bit because we'll be adding probably around 4 to 5 to this. So we actually could stay down and we don't actually have to come up. That being said, the delay counters matter. The longer the game goes, the harder things get because it cares. There are a lot of cards that care about how many delay counters. So if there are 5 or more delay counters, he hits even harder. So we don't want to be too passive. We do want to fight a bit aggressively against Absman. So what do? I don't care about Surveillance Team. We could play Clear the Area. Oh, that's nice. And unfortunately here we want to play. Oh, we don't have our bow. Let's go get our bow. So action, weapon of choice, spend 1 resource of any type. I'll spend Surveillance Team. Search your deck and discard pile for Hawkeye's bow and add it to your hand. Shuffle your deck. Importantly, notice it doesn't say exhaust. So it does say limit once per phase, but any action you can do as many times as the card says, unless it says exhaust, in which if the card's exhausted, you can't exhaust it again. There are ways to wake up your characters, but not in this case. This is once per phase. Shuffle. All right, let's play the bow. Fantastic. So we probably want to play the quiver. So I'll pay you Clear the Area and play the quiver. It's ugly that we have both of these. We'll flip into hero mode. So we have +1 attack and we have ranged on our bows or our arrows. I'll exhaust the quiver to search the top 5. We have found just the 6 damage straightforward arrow. Let's call it that. All right. Well, it's on the quiver. We could shoot that right now to just do like half of his health. That doesn't seem that bad. We actually could do a lot of damage this turn. I'm going to pitch the energy. This is an ugly use of energy because we're throwing out 2 resources. Mind you, your extra resources don't float. So while I'm pitching 2 to play a 1-cost card, we functionally don't have the second resource. Now, if we want to shoot the Vibranium Arrow this turn, it's going to cost us this exhaust, and we have to throw this out. So we're going to be playing an entire deck cycle with only one of our resource cards. I think we can get away with it. I think just doing 6 damage against Absorbing Man where you have to be a bit fast is okay. So I'll pitch this, I'll exhaust this, I'll exhaust the arrow, and then I'll detach this, and we'll just do 6 damage to Absman's head. So he's down on 8. Now here we can exhaust to do 3 damage because mind you, we have +1 attack, or we could do 1 thwart to take 1 off the scheme. I'll do 3 attack, down to 5. That's it. Drop. The scheme added 1, so it's at 3. Mind you, 3 is less than 12, so we're fine. We have a hand of mostly arrows and some pretty dead cards. And Absorbing Man is going to attack. Mind you, we have to remember, after resolving step 1, add a delay counter. So there's 1 delay counter. That's that universal counter that comes in the core box. So he's attacking for 2 and a card. We're not going to block because defense is not what we do. So 2, no boost icons. Good to not see this, I guess. So just 2 damage, not too bad. Oh, shit, I forgot about this. After Absorbing Man makes an undefended attack against you, take 1 indirect damage, 2 indirect damage instead of their 5 or more delay counters. So we have to take 1 more because we're fighting in the wood. We probably need to get allies so we can start defending against attacks. That might have been something we should have kept in mind when we were mulliganing, because defending is actually really good against Dense Forest. Our encounter card is Avalanche. Cool. When revealed, each player must choose to either spend an energy resource or take 2 indirect damage or 3 indirect damage instead of their 5 or more delay counters on the main scheme. So we either have to spend an energy resource or take 2. I'm going to spend an energy resource. Notably, this card comes in. This is I can't believe this is the first side scheme we've seen. Like, side schemes are really common. Admittedly, what's his name? Crossbones is a bit more fighting than anything else. So this comes in with 2 per player threat. So you'll notice here on the board, it has 2 threat on it. And if we remove all the threat from this side scheme, it disappears. You'll also, while this has when revealed text, there's a little icon underneath it. I don't actually know what they're called. I totally forget what these are called. You don't actually see their names show up. I think one of them is a crisis icon. One of them is, maybe help me out here. I don't actually know what they're called. But all this icon means is that for every one of these icons that is visible on the table, on the beginning of the villain phase where you add threat to this, add 1 more threat to this. So technically we don't have to clear this if we're just on top of the main scheme, but we can just constantly just threat, like we can clear this if we want to, but you don't have to. The most important icon that can show up on a side scheme is an exclamation mark. I think that's called a crisis icon. You have to clear the crisis before you can remove threat at all from the main scheme. So that actually stops you. It is a big halt. You have to deal with it before anything else. I do not know what this is called. This one is acceleration. Max heal. I don't know if it's acceleration because isn't acceleration like, I don't want to spawn acceleration icon. Is it the same? Maybe it is. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it is an acceleration icon. Love this. Just picked up a cheap core this past weekend. Yo, Ken, welcome. We're diving right in because I think the game is like relatively straightforward. Hopefully this helps you learn a bit. We've already got through Crossbones on 1 health. It was not even close. Okay, so we're not that good at thwarting this. We don't have to clear it right away. We probably want to stun him because if we stun him, he doesn't attack. And if he doesn't attack, we don't have to worry about the dense forest. I'm going to start the classic way we do by looking for an arrow. We found 2 explosive arrows. We'll take the second one. Classic DJ Fenner's joke. Shuffle. That's on there. That's on there. Okay. I think we really want to shoot this to stun. I think we're going to keep the Crable arrow for next turn so we can clear the avalanche because 2 takes it down, or we could exhaust twice. But I think against Absman, we want to be a bit rushy because again, the longer the delay goes, the worse it is. So we should just go and throw it to the dome a bit. So I'll exhaust this to generate 1 wild. I'll throw out the... Do we want to keep Sonic Arrow or Cable Arrow? Confused means we can flip down. That's okay. Yeah, we'll flip down. So 1, 2, exhaust this, play the Electric Arrow. Electric Arrow does 3 damage and stuns. So the next time Absman will attack, he won't. He's stunned. Then we're going to attack for 3. Well, that will defeat Absman, stage 1. We are flying. Yeah, let's do it. Whatever, no consequences. So hit 0. So we go on to stage 2. The stun stays. It says Absman gains the trait of each environment in play. He now attacks for 2 scheme 2 attack and has only 15 health, so 1 more. That's not a big jump. When revealed, if super absorbing power is in play, deal 1 encounter card to each player. Otherwise, search the encounter deck and discard pile for super absorbing play and reveal it. Shuffle encounter deck. Super absorbing power. Shuffle. So this thing comes in with 3 per player. It says Creel has the ability to absorb the properties of multiple elements at once, but it requires intense concentration. Absorbing man gains the ice, metal, stone, and wood traits. Oops. Certain cards will say if he has certain traits, do bad things to you. Hopefully those don't come up that soon. But yeah, that is something we can get rid of. Again, whenever you scheme, you choose what you want to scheme against, and we could scheme any of these cards. This is definitely very different than the first one we played. I'm now going to I think we're going to discard the Sonic Arrow to play target acquired. I just like emptying my hand so we draw more cards. This mind says we can, after a boost card is turned face up, we can cancel that card's boost abilities. That's it. We'll stay a hero. We drew another stun arrow, which is nice. We add 2 to None Shall Pass at the beginning of the villain phase. 1 because it goes up 1 per player, and then 1 more because of the acceleration icon. Absman would attack us, but he's stunned, so he loses the stun, and then we draw an encounter card. It's another avalanche. Shit. When revealed, choose to take... Oh, we were meant to put 1 delay counter on here. Remember that? When revealed, each player must choose to either spend a lightning resource and an energy resource, or take 2 indirect damage. Yeah, delay counter. I got it. It's super easy to miss. I think we can throw out the Vibranium Arrow. Actually, Homeland Intervention. How many shield cards do we have? Exhaust up to 3 shield cards you control and choose a scheme. Remove 2 threat from the scheme for each card exhausted that way. Our shield cards currently could be Agent Coulson, and Hawkeye is only a shield agent on the flip side. So I don't know if we can play this. It clears an avalanche, which is pretty good. Right, I said it, yeah. Chat delay. Shit. Can we do 15 damage? We have like 9 damage easy. I think we're just gonna rush Absman. Again, Absman's not very interesting. So unfortunately, we're just gonna ignore this and just send it to the face. So let's go find an arrow. This button. No arrows. Shuffle. Okay. So we are going to throw out Homeland Intervention, exhaust this to generate 1 resource, exhaust the arrow, and shoot an electric arrow. It does 3 damage and stun. 1, 2, 3. Stun is 6. We can shoot another Vibranium Arrow instead of using Hawkeye. We might as well just use Hawkeye. So we'll do 1, 2, 3 to play Coulson. Coulson says after Agent Coulson enters play, search your deck and discard pile for a preparation card and add it to your hand. Unfortunately, our deck only has 1 preparation card. That's why we're playing this. It's already on the table. So that's a really nice thing. That ability, like, because Marvel Champions works the way it does, Agent Coulson functionally costs 2 resources because you play it for 3 and then you get a card back. So any card that draws a card, even if that card you're not intending to play, it has a fair bit more value in this game. So we can exhaust Agent Coulson and he'll take 1 consequential, either if he thwarts or attacks. If we do 2, we can clear an avalanche, which is about the same as doing 2 off of this. Yeah, let's do that. So we'll exhaust Agent Coulson. He will thwart for 2. So he takes 1 consequential damage. We'll clear a single avalanche. That's our turn. Draw a new hand. We have another explosive arrow. So we can do a fair bit of damage. We have direct force. This is the one of new card I put in my deck. It's not very good. But when your hero makes an attack with the keyword, so our keyword would be ranged, the attack deals 2 additional damage. So a single card for 2 damage is not bad. 0 cost cards, mind you, are the most flexible because they're playable on their own. But a single card for 2 damage is kind of what you expect in the game, as much as this one is a bit situational. All right, so we add 2 to this, 1 because of it, 1 more because of the acceleration icon on Avalanche, and Absorbing Man would attack, but unfortunately we've stun locked him. Not my favorite villain, let me tell you. Not great. You didn't attack with Hawkeye? Wait, did I not? You're right, I didn't. So we should have done 3 more. Thank you. Good catch. All right, encounter card. Gang up. The villain and each minion engaged with you attacks you. That's obviously not great. I think Agent Coulson's going to step in on this one. So Absman will attack for 2 and a card. We'll exhaust Coulson to block the attack because Dense Forest kind of wants us to block things. We also didn't put the delay counter on it. So Absman is attacking for 2 and a card. I'll block with Coulson. It has a boost ability. It says if there are 5 or more delay counters on the main scheme, take 1 indirect damage. Stall tactics. Again, you kind of want to go fast against Absman. So that does 2 damage. That's enough to kill Coulson. And we don't take Dense Forest because the attack was not undefended. It is back to us. I think we easily have it. Again, I don't have good stuff to say about Absman. I'm so sorry. We'll exhaust the quiver to see if we can find a chunky arrow. I'm pretty sure we've seen our 2 big arrows, the vibranium arrows. We can do cable or sonic. We'll just take sonic. Okay, so we need to do 6 damage. Actually, we can't kill him this turn, can we? I think we're 1 damage short. Yeah, I think we're 1 damage short. Because we can do 3, and then the arrow can do 3. So it's 6. We can give 2 damage to the arrow, so it's 9. So the question is, can we play Agent 13? Huh. Okay, hold on. So we can play the explosive arrow for free. That does 3 damage. So we tap, 3 damage. So 3, 6. That leaves us with 5 cards in hand. If we play 4 for Agent 13, after Agent 13 attacks or thwarts, choose a shield support in play, of which we have none. So we're 1 card short. Because if we wanted to play the directed force for the 2 damage, we only have 3 cards in hand and we can't play Agent 13. We could, in theory, pitch build support to play clear the area, to clear the avalanche. It would draw us a card because we clear the scheme. That would leave us on 1 less card in hand, which is not going to help in any meaningful way. But if we had like another, max 1 per attack. No, you can't even stack these. All right, well, I think we're going to have to jump into our car for a second. So we'll exhaust this. We'll pitch build support. We'll detach this, and we'll exhaust our arrow to play it, or a bow. It does 3 damage and confuses. 1, 2, 3. Confuse is 5? Yeah. Okay. Hawkeye will do 3 damage. 1, 2, 3. So we're 1 shot away. It's confused, so we can flip down. There's a small chance that we lose here. Yeah, there's a small chance we lose here. So I think we're just going to do as much as we can to make sure we don't lose. Because if we draw an encounter card that says the Absorbing Man schemes, we could easily lose. Because this will be on 9. Absman will try and scheme, but we'll be confused. But if we draw an encounter card that says Absman activates against you, we'll probably lose the game. So we're going to take a risk here. This is the problem with solo, is like sometimes you have to just take these risks because it's hard to flip down. The other option is like, we don't really have another option, do we? We didn't have access to a cable arrow, no. Because we could have like not attacked with Hawkeye and took 3 threat off of this if we had a cable arrow, which we don't. So what I'm going to do is I don't actually think we need to use directed force, but we're going to be wasting it if we don't. So I'll use directed force on the arrow attack. It gives it 2 extra damage. Yeah, clear the area is what we're going to do. We're going to waste some cards. But we're going to play... I'm going to keep explosive arrow because it beats... Oh, we have one here, so we don't care. It beats guard. So I'll play clear the area. Remove 2 threat from a scheme, so I'll remove 2 from this. We're just hoping that it holds out. So we're at 5 of 12. It'd be at 7 of 12. We'll flip down. And we'll discard Agent 13, and that's it. All right, we put 2 on this. 1 because of acceleration, 1 because we always do. Absman activates. It would be a scheme. We add, 1 delay counter. Is confused. And so now we draw an encounter card. We need this encounter card not to be an activation or advance. It's Assault. Alter Ego. This card gains Surge, so we're not out of the woods yet. Surge means you draw another card. Swinging Stone. Oh, we might lose. When revealed, Absorbing Man schemes. If Absorbing Man has the stone trait, he gets +1 scheme for this activation. So he does have the stone trait because we did not deal with this, so he has every trait. So he's scheming for 3 and a card. That means at a minimum he'll hit 10. So we need this boost card to not have at least 2 icons. If it has 2 icons, we're cooked. So this needs to have 1 or 0 boost icons. Shit. How fitting. So it's Criminal Past. So it gets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this hits 12. And we do, unfortunately, thwart out. We did not respect Absman, and Absman got us. This hits 12. Game over. It was Criminal Past. I think on average, we're likely to hit 2 counters. We have this card says cancel the card's boost ability, not boost icons. So if it had a star and it says does something when you draw it. But unfortunately, yeah. The stone trade actually mattered. If we did not have stone, we would be at 11 and we would we'd be okay here. The next boost card also has 1 and a thing on it, so we might have survived, but maybe we got a bit unlucky there. Yeah, I would argue a bit unlucky. What's the consequence of failing? Gotta do it again. That's the consequence. How do we reset the table? Is there a way to just fast reset? I don't think there is. No. Got us. Let's try it back. It's good that you lose. Otherwise, why would you play the game? Am I right? Let's try it again. So let's from URL load. You also play multi-hand, mind you, on Dragon cards, even if you're solo, and you can invite friends, which is quite nice. So we'll do that. Okay. Would you have lost if you stayed in hero form? Yes. Because he wasn't stunned. And I had 6 health, and I couldn't really block. We would have to basically... Okay, so if we were in hero form, we could have blocked. We'd have to block, because it avoids the... Like, it's probably worth doing. He attacks for 2, and then we would have drawn the same encounter card. Well, we would have drawn another encounter card, because that would have been a boost icon. But the idea is if he attacked twice, we also would have died. So I think the chance of him scheming and hitting 5 on the scheme was like probably flipping down was right there. But without any allies, it's really hard to deal with Woods. Assault is a boost card, then the same encounter card, but also had an attack. Yeah. Oh, you're right. We would have drawn Assault because we, yeah, I think we would have still lost. Load pre-built. Scenarios, Rise, Absman. I want to go straight to Taskmaster. Taskmaster is actually really fun. So we have to add Energy Shield. And I'm not going to draw our setup card unless it matters because I'm not going to plan to use it. There's no way you should use your setup card on this scenario as much as we lost to it. So Energy Shield, load group. Oh, load group villain. So that's why it spawned on there. Okay. So this goes in there and this shuffles in. Technically it should move to encounter deck, shuffle in. All right. Round 2, Absman. Starting instead with metal, because we're at the abandoned facility. After Absman makes an undefended attack against you, discard a resource icon from your hand. 2 resource icons if there's 5 or more. So we're not taking additional damage. It's eating our hand size. That's obviously pretty bad. So what's our hand? We have a Sonic Arrow. That's a Confuse. Confuse is not that good on this side because obviously we can't confuse and flip down in the same turn. We can't flip up and flip down, so that's difficult. We have Nick Fury in our opening hand, which is pretty sick. We have to basically throw every card down to play Nick Fury. Quinn Carrier is also really good early, so we could actually just keep this hand. We also could discard most of the bad cards in this hand that we don't want to play and hope that we draw a resource card. Because as soon as you draw like one of those 2 icon resource cards, playing Nick Fury is a lot easier and actually gives you more cards, right? Because you trade 3 cards for 3 cards. So this is a greedy start. There's a chance against Absman we shouldn't like spend 3 resources on Quid Carrier and we should just like send it. Feels weird that in campaign mode you just replay if you lose. It should have an effect, but you keep going, IMO. It's up to you to do that. In Arkham Horror, like the sort of lose forward thing is really important, but like in this scenario or in this campaign, the heroes have to win. There are downsides, mind you, more attached to not succeeding, but not to doing certain things, right? Like if somebody is captured and you don't rescue them, which is not part of the like main story, that has downsides. If allies are defeated, they sometimes don't go back into your deck, right? There are downsides to that, but the main campaign as it plays out in the comic book style, you have to do the good thing so that the comic book advances. Like Absman is on frame 1 on the floor. So you kind of have to do it. But I hear you for sure. It's like the Lord of the Rings sagas. Yeah, it's more like Lord of the Rings where they just like replay it and then deck build around it. And it's also very close to Lord of the Rings where like, say I know Absman is going to be attacking and I need a block with allies or whatever it is. I don't think that's actually Absman's shtick. You can build a deck that beats it. And some scenarios more than others encourage you to specifically deck build it in a certain way. That being said, there are easily decks that are very flexible. Like I can beat the whole campaign with this deck with Clint, not without having to build into something. But if you're particularly playing on harder difficulties, it behooves you to do that. I'm going to keep Quinn Carrier. I think it's a greedy play. Worst case scenario, we throw it to Nick Fury to draw 3 cards. But I want to draw a resource card here. Okay, no resource card. Electric Arrow is really good because we can just stun Absman and not have to worry about his nonsense. So I'm going to pitch 1, 2, 3, 4. Play. Oh, actually, we don't want to stun because we're doing a stun arrow. If we're doing the stun arrow, it's useless because Nick Fury blocks it. Yeah. So play Nick Fury. You can play allies and alter ego for that doesn't matter. And you can also thwart and scheme with allies when you're an alter ego. That also is cool. That didn't come up yet, but you can do that. So I think I'm going to throw out every arrow. I'll keep the Quinn Carrier and hopefully we draw a double resource. Nick, I'll draw 3. 1, 2, 3. A bit too late. Here, we're going to use... So what do we do here? We could... Because in theory here, we need to spend a resource to search your deck and discard pile for Hawkeye's bow. So we could... Like, clear the area is really nice because you can cycle it. So we could clear 2 threat from None Shall Pass. and then draw a card. So we trade 2 for 1. So we might want to do Strength and Vibranium Arrow, or Strength and clear the area for Quinn Carrier. And then we can use Quinn Carrier to clear the area of this. And then we can use whatever we draw from clear the area to get our bow down. Unfortunately, we actually can't do that because you can only install Quinn Carrier when you're an Avenger, and when we're in Clint Barton's side, we're not an Avenger. So I think that's the most efficient way to use our hand, but unfortunately, with Quinn Carrier's text, we actually cannot do that. So that means we have to flip up. So if we want to get our bow, which we do, we need to do it before we flip up. So I think that means we discard this for the bow, play Quinn Carrier, float a resource, whatever. So I'll throw out clear area, search for the bow. Got the bow. I'll play the bow. I'll flip up. I'll play 1, 2, 3. We also could just dome him for 6. Doming him for 6 feels okay. Having the Quinn Carrier in turn 1 also feels okay. I think Nick Fury is the tempo play, so we can get away with playing this slow Quinn Carrier play. So I'm going to do... We could thwart 2 with Nick. We lost the threat last time. Yeah, F it. I'm going to thwart 2 with Nick. He takes 1 consequential, and then I'll hit for 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And that's it. We draw. We're looking for one of these. At least we're also looking for our, what's it called? Our quiver. Unfortunately, we drew 4 arrows. That's a bad hand. Classic problems with Hawkeye, but it is what it is. We put 1 on None Shall Pass. Absman will attack for 2 and a boost card. We'll block with Nick Fury. We have to put a delay counter. And this is after Absman makes an undefended attack. This is now defended because Nick is defending. So 2, scheme, put this card, sorry, boost, put this card into play. So it replaces this one. And we got to adjust the rotation on this. Set rotation 0. There's a shortcut for that, I'm pretty sure. So now it says that after Absman makes an undefended attack against you, place 1 threat on the main scheme, 2 threat if there are 5 or more delays, because now he's ice. So we're blocking. So it does 2 damage that defeats Nick Fury. We draw on a counter card. It's Omnimorph Duplication. When revealed, if Absorbing Man has ice trait, exhaust your identity. Ugly. We couldn't have played around this because he changed halfway through. Back to us. Here, we probably want to shoot an electric arrow. It's a shame we have all these arrows in our hand. There's not a lot of minions in this set, which is really just, I think, the part that makes it less interesting. I think if there's more minions in the set, it would be a fair bit cooler, but it's mostly a 1-on-1 fight in the wilderness. So I think we're going to throw out Explosive Arrow. Actually, we don't need to. We don't need to. We'll exhaust Quinn Carrier to play our Marksman. We'll exhaust Marksman and our bow, and we'll throw out Explosive Arrow to play Electric Arrow. That's 3 damage and a stun. So stun is here. And then these 2 cards in our hand are kind of useless. Kind of unfortunate. I think we'll pass. We'll draw 5. We got a quiver, which is nice. We have a clear the area, so we can clear None Shall Pass. And then we have some shield cards, which are not coming into play, unfortunately. None Shall Pass gets up to 2. We add a progress counter. Absorbing Man would attack us, but he is stunned. And so we draw a counter card. It is Dense Forest, a Surge. The environment replaces itself. We're back to the forest, so indirect damage if we don't block. Surge means we draw another encounter card. When revealed, the villain schemes. So it's going to be scheming for 1 and a card. 2, 3 plus star. If Absman has the ice or metal trace, get him a tough status card, Icy Grip. So he does not. Currently, he's only wood. So we're adding 3 more to this. So much for clear the area. So it's on 5 of 12. Okay. We probably want to put down our arrow, our quiver. If we play Sonic Arrow, we can do 3 damage and flip down, which is pretty good. It feels like this is getting away from us. I don't know. Maybe we could rush. I think we need to find good arrows with this, but we unfortunately drew like 6 of our 10 arrows already in the top 15 of our deck. We'll exhaust Hawkeye's arrow to search the top 5. No arrows. Bummer. So we definitely used our Marksman and another card from my hand to play Sonic Arrow. That puts him on 5. We'll have 2 cards left in hand. So we could play Clear the Area to thwart 2. Not great. We could get down the Government Liaison. Oh, no, we can't. We can't afford it. And this card requires you to exhaust shield cards. In theory, we could flip down and like exhaust Hawkeye to thwart 2 off of that. I don't think we're going to do that. Let's exhaust this, throw out this, do 3 damage, and confuse. So again, Confused means that when he tries to scheme, he doesn't. That's a stun. That's that. And then we have 2 cards in hand. So we can play Clear the Area, which... So we can do 3 damage. Or we can do some combination. I think we want to do 3 damage. We have to remember that when Absman advances to stage 2, he comes in with a scheme that has a bunch of threat on it. And it has 3 threat. So if we don't have a cable arrow, we can't deal with it. Our deck has no more cable arrows. So our ability to threat is actually, to thwart is pretty low once we advance. So when we advance, we might just want to like send it. On 5 health, the only arrow that one-shots that moves to the next would be Vibranium Arrow. How many Vibranium Arrows have we played? There's 1 more Vibranium Arrow in our deck. So if we have to shoot him with a Vibranium Arrow, attacking here for 3 is a waste. So let's be slightly more conservative than we were before. I'll pitch Homeland Security to do Clear the Area, remove 2 threat from a scheme. If this removes the last threat, draw a card. So I'll just remove 2. No draw card. And then I'll exhaust Hawkeye to thwart 1. Feels bad. Ideally, a Vibranium Arrow kills Absorbing Man, so we're not wasting damage. And then we'll flip down so that we can draw up to 6 hand size, and he's confused. We drew the Vibranium, so we played around that pretty smart, so that will be our turn next turn. We might be able to set up the Helicarrier, which is a nice shield card, and then we can clear the area to work on things. This is on 3. It's on 3 delay counters, so we are not going too fast. Absman would go, but he's confused, so no scheme, and we draw a single encounter card. Omnimorph, when revealed, would discard a random card from your hand. So Shift X does it. We lost the card we weren't going to play. That's fine. We do lose an effective resource, though, which is a bit of a bummer. Okay, so an alter ego. There's nothing much we can do. We could recover, but we're at full health, so we're just going to flip over. Let's go search for an arrow. I'm not sure how many arrows there are left. None there. We'll shuffle. 10 cards left in the deck. So we basically have 2 turns before we draw encounter card and shuffle. We can advance. If we advance, we're actually able to clear the area of the thing that comes up. Now, he will be attacking for 2 and a card with wood, which will be like 3 damage at a minimum. I think that's a risk I'm willing to take. Okay, hold on. So we'll do... we don't need Directed Force. This card's been pretty bad. I think we should rather have like some sort of thwarting card in the slot. So 1, 2, 3. Let's just play Helicarrier. We can exhaust Helicarrier to reduce the resource cost of the next card we play by 1. So we could exhaust it and Quincarrier to play Vibranium. Or an Expert Marksman. Okay, no, we're fine. So use Quincarrier to generate a wild. I'll discard 2 energy resources and I'll play Helicarrier. I'll exhaust Helicarrier. The next card we played is reduced to cost by 1. Notably, this card is an action, while this card is a resource. You can use resource paid abilities during any window when you're generating resources. Actions can only be done largely on your turn. You can technically do them on other players' turns. We're not talking about the multiplayer rules as much as they're pretty straightforward, but that means that we can generate a resource if this is active or not exhausted, during the villain phase to play like defense cards and stuff like that. But we can't use this to generate resources during the villain phase because it doesn't generate resources. It's an action that sets up the next player's card. So you could even do it to help other people. So we spend 1 here. We'll spend 1 from this to play Vibranium Arrow, and that just does 6 damage with piercing, exhausting our bow. So that puts down to 0. Defeat stage 1. We're on stage 2, 15 health. Find super absorbing power and put it into play. I don't think we've seen it so far. Yeah, there's only 1. So it's 3 threat and it has all traits. So let's try and clear this. So I'm going to do exhaust to do 1. Technically, the order we do this is not that important because we're not going to be able to play the card that we draw here, but then I'll pitch Directed Force to play Clear the Area, remove 2 threat. If it removes the last threat, draw a card. So we'll clear this, draw a card. It's Agent Coulson. Now, obviously here, we're going to probably discard this to draw. Actually, we kind of want Agent Coulson because we want allies for Absman to block because we don't want to do undefended attacks into Absman. The question is whether we saw Mockingbird. We haven't. So we're going to be drawing 5 of 9 cards. So is Agent Coulson better than Mockingbird? Probably not. So I think we should probably throw out Agent Coulson and just hope that we draw Mockingbird. Yeah, let's try that. Yeah, pay it out. Nunchuck Bass, it's on 4 of 12. We had the next delay counter. Oops, there. And Absman is now going to attack us for 2 and a boost icon. If this is undefended, we have to take 1 indirect damage. We're not going to defend it. So he's coming in for 2 in a card. Has no boost icons. It's an assault. So we take 2. And then after Absman makes an undefended attack, take 1 indirect. We can only assign it to ourselves, so we will. Draw and counter card. It's a Rocky Outcrop. Okay. So replaces the last environment. It has Surge. So we'll draw another encounter card. Now with Stone, after Absman makes an undefended attack, healed 1 damage from him. Honestly, that's the least bad one, I think. I'm not sure what the encounter cards do with Stone, but if he's healing, that's like fine. Healing is like one of the best things you can ask for. If the encounter card just heals the villain, it's like fine. Healing yourself is harder than doing damage to the villain, so healing is whatever. Stall tactics. When revealed, place 1 threat on the main scheme for every 2 delay counters on the main scheme. Whoa, that's actually frightening. So that adds 2. I don't know that existed. So 6 to 12, not too bad, but that actually can be really bad if you play too slow. Okay, so if we can do 15 damage, we win. I don't think we're going to be able to do 15 damage. I don't think there's arrows in the deck. We'll search the whole deck. No arrows. So we want to probably play down our Expert Marksman. We probably don't need to. We definitely want to play Mockingbird. And then we have no arrows to shoot, which is unfortunate. So we're just going to play as much as we can. Mind you, with Agent 13, after she comes into play, you can, she attacks her thwarts, you can ready a support that's shield. So you can use Helicarrier twice. It's kind of nice. It saves you 2 resources as much as you have to build around it. But Mockingbird's definitely where we want here. So I'll use Quincarrier and Helicarrier to reduce her cost. I'll throw out Skilled Investigator because I don't think it's going to make sense because the game's almost over. And then we'll play Mockingbird. We have 2 more resources and a card potentially in our hand to play. So I'm going to throw out Agent 13 and I'm going to play the 2nd mana cheating card. We could technically stack them, but I don't think we need to. We have Field Agent. I don't think we care about Field Agent that much. Should we take some threat off None Shall Pass? I think we might want to, just to be careful. Hawkeye's going to do 3 damage into Absorbing Man. Mockingbird is going to take 1 consequential to take 2 threat off of this. And I think we're in a good spot to maybe kill next turn. We're going to discard the Field Agent. Unfortunately, we're going to draw an encounter card here because our deck is going to bottom up. So once we draw 5, we get an encounter card that we will draw during that phase in the villain phase where you draw encounter cards. This hits 5. Unfortunately, the delays also hit 5. So the cards are scaled up. Absman's going to attack for 2 and a card and a boost. Can we take it to the head? It's likely we can take this one to the head. He will heal 2, which is not great. Now we block with Mockingbird. We can spend a resource to prevent all damage. Technically, it will still be an undefended attack. Because if we don't block with Hawkeye, so he'll heal no matter what. So I think we're just going to take it. I think we're not going to block. And we're just going to do 2 and a boost card to the face. If the 2nd encounter or the 3rd encounter card, if the next 2 encounter cards, if one of them attacks us, we'll block that one with Mockingbird. But I think here we're just going to take this unblocked. If Absman has stone or wood, you're stunned. Okay. It's funny how it took this long to show up, but stun and confuse, you can do them to heroes too. So we are stunned. So the next time we do an attack, it cancels the attack. So if we want to shoot an arrow, we have to pay for the cost of the arrow, discard an arrow, and we don't get an arrow. It's brutal. It's really, really bad. Now this is 3 damage because it is 2 + 1. And this says, this one says 2 damage because it's undefended. So we heal 2 from... Are we really getting cooked by Absman? We draw an encounter card. Steel Kick. When revealed, hero, take 3 indirect damage. 4 indirect damage if Absman has the metal trait. Things are really bad. So we have to take 3 indirect damage. So I'll put 1 on Mockingbird, so she's not defeated. And then I have to take 2 myself. We're on 1 health again. Caught off guard. When revealed, discard an upgrade or support you control. If you have no cards were discarded this way, this card gains Surge. Unfortunately, this is the one card that's going to make us remember that we have this technically. In theory, we should have had this on the table, but we didn't spawn it because it doesn't matter. This technically is an upgrade with 0 cost, so I'm going to discard this again. This forces you to discard an upgrade or support. This is in the standard deck, so this shows up in most games you play. So it's always nice to have chump blockers or chump upgrades. I'm going to just discard this. It's whatever, but that was the only reason I was going to spawn this if that card showed up. Okay, so we're stunned. So our next attack, we'll take the stun off. That's pretty bad. No way around that. That's not great. Let's go search for an arrow. Here we want the confuse arrow. I forget what the confuse arrow is called, but we definitely want the confuse arrow. I think it's a concussion arrow. So look at top 5. Sonic arrow, that's the one. That's a confuse arrow. So we definitely want that. We could actually do electric arrow and then just hope that we can survive. But if we draw another encounter card that says take 3 indirect damage, like we're just cooked. So I think we're going to do that. We're going to put Sonic Arrow down on Hawkeye's quiver, and that should be that. Now we have to remember our first arrow is going to be canceled, or our first attack in general is going to be canceled. So we're going to spend, oh, these are not attacks. Oh no, these are not attacks. Hey Jai, hey friendo. What the basado is this? Yo, this is the new JNet client. It's been pretty good. Hawkeye's been getting some good buffs recently. Okay, I thought we were going to shoot this arrow, but we can't shoot this arrow. Basic attack? Yeah, I guess we just do basic attack, shoot Sonic. That's the same as shooting 2 arrows. Yeah, that should have made more sense. I was hopefully going to flip down, but I can't flip down because it didn't make any sense. I thought we were going to ready Hawkeye's bow to shoot 2 arrows, but we'll just do a basic attack. It does 3 damage. It gets stunned, so we lose the attack. Okay. Now we'll exhaust 2 of these to shoot the Sonic Arrow, exhausting our bow. So, can I just hit X here? Oh, that works. So Sonic Arrow does 3 damage and confuse. So the next time he will scheme, he won't, which is good because now we can flip down. We'll flip down in a second. Yeah, ready to shoot another arrow still exhausts you. Yeah, but it costs resources. We have more resources than common sense, unfortunately. Okay, so we have Sky Destroyer. This is a really cool card. It says after you play a shield card, exhaust Sky Destroyer, deal 2 damage to an enemy. This is like the cool shield payoff card. The more cheap shield cards you play once per turn, it just like starts nuking from orbit, which is pretty great. This new JNet client is like, it's really good. Shout out to Dragon Cards. It's actually pretty sick. So ideally we play this and then we play Monica Chank and then we flip down. So I'll use Hell Carrier, reduce the next cost by 1, and I'll throw out 2 resources to play Sky Destroyer. Then I'll exhaust Quinn Carrier to generate a wild resource. Then I'll exhaust Build and Cable Arrow to play Monica. Monica comes into play. We'll do her text in a second. Just to remember, after you play a shield card, so technically after we do this text, I think. No, our choice. Exhaust Sky Destroyer, deal 2 damage to an enemy. So we get a bit of orbital bombardment. And then Monica says, search your hand deck and discard pile for a surveillance team, put into play, place 1 snoop counter on each surveillance team. Our deck is only playing 1 surveillance team, just so that we have this interaction. Shuffle. So it comes in. It's got 4 snoop counters. We'll exhaust it and spend 1 snoop counter just to keep this slightly down. But that was the wrong thing. Okay. Now Monica here, I think we're just going to do damage. I'm going to keep Mockingbird alive because she has a really good block ability, but I'm going to use Monica. So she takes 1 consequential and then we do 1 health damage to Absman. I called it health damage. Never done that before. I'll flip down to Hawkeye. We probably are going to heal and then shoot another arrow. There's a big chance if we draw 2 good arrows, we can just like one-shot Absman on the following turn. So we might be able to get through this as dicey as 1 health is once again. Again, classic Clint Barton problems. There's a neutral card that gives you +2 health. 3 health. We should be playing it. Drop to 6 hand size because mind you, Alter Ego has more hand size. We add 1 to None Shall Pass. We're going to add another delay counter. Mind you, we're pretty high up into delay counters. That campaign does track how many delay counters you have. You don't want to go too far. Absman would scheme, but he's confused, so we lose the confuse. We draw on a counter card. It is Hydra Soldier. Holy shit, there's guard enemies. Why every time that we want to burst the villain down, like 3 guard enemies show up? Oh, that's brutal. That's really, really bad. Okay, if that's the case, I think we have to heal. We're going to try and Vibranium Arrow the guard, which we have a good chance of finding, and go from there. Legion of Hydra is pretty ubiquitous in this campaign. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Classic Hydra. Okay, so I think we'll play Nick down. Mind you, Nick dealing 4 damage is actually probably a reasonable way to deal with the Hydra Soldier on this board state, because we're very bad at doing 4 damage. We might actually do Nick and not card draw. This is one of the weird cases where it might be correct. He's also a shield card. So the other options, we can do 2 damage with Mockingbird, 2 damage to Hydra Soldier. Sorry, we do 2 damage with Mockingbird, 2 damage with Sky Destroyer because we're playing a shield card, and then draw 3. That means we can do 3, 4, and if we find the big arrow, we can find lethal. So we have lethal if we find the Vibranium Arrow. The problem is we can't search until we're hero. So if that's the case, do we flip up now or do we heal? Do you want to go for the flashy play? Because the flashy play is hope that we draw the 6 damage Vibranium Arrow. We're looking at 5 of 20. We have 2 and 20. So 50% chance or something like that. You have lethal with Nyx 4. So if we do Nyx 4, it kills the Hydra Soldier. Then we have 3, 4, 5, 6, and just a normal arrow. No, is this rules enforced automated way to play MC? No. Telespectador, how's it going? There's no rules enforcement. There's some automation where like when you hit the villain phase, we haven't been messing with the phases. You can do the phases. It'll like automatically add threat, but there's not automation. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. We do have just lethal. It's less flashy. We'll do it. So I'll use Helicarrier. I will generate a resource. So we'll play Nick Fury for 2 less. So it costs 2. So I'll pitch Field Agent and Field Agent. When Nick comes in, we can do 4 damage to an enemy. So we'll kill the Hydra Soldier. When defeated, deal engage player and encounter card. Again, we only draw this during the part of the phase where we resolve encounter cards, or we only do it. When Nick Fury comes in his shield, Sky Destroyer does 2. We'll flip up at Clint. Let's see if we would have found the arrow. Let's search for the top 5. Oh, I was there. We could have believed in ourselves. Shuffle. That's on the quiver. It's on the quiver. I'll exhaust the bow, send Vibranium 6 to the dome. We have defeated Absman. We now check the log. Anyways, it seems awesome. It's really, really good. Beta.dragon cards is kind of sick. It says record the number of delay counters on the main scheme in the campaign log. Unfortunately for us, it was 6. That's relatively bad. That's genuinely not very good. Each player may choose one of the basic condition upgrades in the campaign set, attached to their identity, and added to their deck in the campaign log. So these are the sort of like campaign upgrades you get. Again, it's nothing like Arkham Horror. Obviously, it's not spending XP, but we got to do one of these cards. Basic Thwart upgrade. Wow, they really broke the bank on the naming there. Basic Thwart upgrade. Yeah, the flashy one would have worked. So these we can add to our deck. So one says you get +2 hit points, you get +1 thwart. We're not thwarting a lot. Maybe that'll help us thwart, but I kind of like shooting arrows. A lot of these are pretty simple. You get +1 hit point, your hero gets +1 attack. Mind you, these just start and play. You get +3 hit points, you get +1 defense. We don't really defend. And this will be like +4, +1 recovery. Which one do y'all like the most? I think the attack obviously makes the most sense because we can deal with 4 health enemies relatively easily. Maybe being on 2 thwart isn't the worst. It's +2 hit points though is good. Like we have a hit point problem. I don't think we ever want to block. And if we're never blocking, like this is probably okay for us. What are y'all thinking? I would imagine it's either recovery or attack. I don't know if y'all feel strongly about one of these more than the others. I think that's all we do in terms of our choices. And then we go on. This narrative continues. I'm glad that's done. Truly, that was a glorious battle. Hey, what was that? Oh God, he's so cool. I had no idea. Let's go back to base and find out what's going on. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? If you're seeing that Hydra somehow stole our tower, then yeah. Oh, Hydra took the tower. They rebranded it. That's the first thing that's important to establish branding. They get shot down in their, I think it's a Quinn carrier or probably just some jet. Probably attack and solo. Yeah, I think probably attack. Ha, boom, no more Avengers. Let's go make sure they're done for, boys. Scenario 3, it's Greg Davies himself. It's the Taskmaster. It's 11:30. We're going to call it here. Taskmaster, mind you, is actually like a really, really fun scenario. It involves a bunch of kidnapped heroes that you have to like rescue. And every time you flip up and down, you're like evading, kind of they're hunting down the heroes and you get attacked. It's kind of sick. It's the most interesting scenario so far. Only a mild spoiler, mind you, this is the first encounter box. The next scenario after this is Zola. Zola is like a mad scientist and you have to fight these like minions that keep morphing and becoming more and more powerful. It's quite tricky. And then the last one, of course, is like the head fascist himself who takes over the White House, Red Skulll. And this scenario is really cool because there's like this stack of side schemes and every turn a new side scheme comes out. And you just have to keep side scheming down and Red Skulll gets scarier and scarier the more side schemes come up, which is really fun. This is a really fun scenario. And there's like a giant mech you have to deal with eventually. And that's it. Again, especially if you're not talking, if you're just playing, you can play through an entire campaign in about like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, including deck building, which is an absolute treat. Again, sometimes you get rocked in 10 to 15 minutes and then you just run it back like we did earlier today. But that's Marvel Champions. It's sick. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. The energy of this was probably pretty high. I've been cooped up in a car all day and we didn't really plan to do like a really good teach. We did a fast teach. So if you got this far through the video and you think Marvel Champions is cool, you have any questions, hit me up. I've been playing only this last year or so, but I have like 300 or 400 games logged because it's really easy to play this game. This is Dragon Cards. Shout out to the team that put this together because it is like totally sick. It's being updated constantly, which is awesome. Mind you, a new box just came out the other day. Really weird thing about this box, and this is, I think, in some ways the most frustrating thing about Marvel Champions, this is a standalone box. You can just buy this. The only thing you're missing is tokens, and you can just have whatever tokens you want. But these boxes are unfortunately not considered standalone because you don't have the tokens and the health dials, but you can play with dice, like do whatever you want really. But the only thing that is used in multiple Marvel Champions games is this encounter set called Standard, right? Like this card says Standard 3 of 7. So there's 7 cards that are always shuffled into every single like game. And with Expert, you add 3 more cards. Some scenarios ask you to add counter sets from the base box, but that's very, very rare. And very specifically, this box comes with an alternate standard set, which means it's entirely standalone. So you can just buy this box and play it. It's probably like $40. It's not bad. But if you want to try it out, this will be more complicated than what we're playing, like a bit more nuanced. And it comes with 2 decks pre-built. You won't have that many deck building options because that's how they come. But yeah, technically a lot of the expansions are basically standalone. So like if you really like Spider-Man, go grab the Spider-Man box. It's sick. Or like the Spider Heroes box. It has like Miles Morales and Gwen in it. That being said, you might have to proxy at least 7 cards, which is not bad. You can proxy 7 cards, no problem. To be clear, I'm not working on Dragon cards. I'm working on my own project. It'll be a while before you see anything. Oh, cool. Plan on streaming more Marvel Champions in the future? It's unlikely. I don't know. It's like there's people that stream, mind you, regular content for this game. I've been watching some of their stuff, not too active in it. But I probably need to get Velma's Diner up sooner than doing more Marvel Champions stuff. For me, Marvel Champions is like, I just, I'm not too involved in the meta. I don't check Marvel CDB for cool decks. I just like, spend 10 minutes putting a deck together and then play. I play on Expert. The game is fun. Mind you, Hawkeye's not particularly good, but he's kind of my guilty thing. It's not really compatible with implementing game rules similar to Octagon. Remember Octagon? Yeah, I played a lot on Octagon back in the day. It was really, really quite fun. It's how I got into online netrunners through Octagon. A lot of people still play stuff in Octagon from my understanding too, but it's like such a wild interface for sure. I know a lot of the shortcuts back from the JNet days. Anywho, I'm going to call it for a night. Thanks for hanging out. We'll be back Tuesday doing back to Netrunner. There's a lot of Netrunner stuff going on. We also had a set that just came out like a week ago. So if you found this and you're like, oh, cool, I'm going to see more Marvel Champions on this channel. Sorry, April Fools. But let me know if you like Marvel Champion stuff. Maybe every once in a while we can just boot up and play some online stuff. But playing this in person is a good time. Anyways, thanks so much for hanging out. Hopefully you enjoyed this. And we'll be back on Tuesday to do some Netrunner. Happy April Fools, y'all. Thanks for hanging out.